Hello, everyone. Hello. And happy Halloween. I hope your Halloween has been good, and especially now that it's a Halloween night. So, tonight is a very, very special event that I am doing on Twitch. Go ahead and mute the music. It is very, very special. I will be reading, live on stream, 6 creepypastas. That's right, 6. Now, 3 of them are unironically good. They will send a chill down your spine. The other 3 are absolute dog shit. They are terrible. But it's like The Room. They're so bad that it's funny. They're such poor attempts at horror that it's funny. So, with that being said, I would like to begin with our first event, with our first story of the night, a serious one, a good one. So that being said, here is our first story of the night, Mr. Widemouth. Here we go. During my childhood, my family was like a drop of water in a vast river, never remaining in one location for long. We settled in Rhode Island when I was 8, and there we remained until I went to college in Colorado Springs. Most of my memories are located in Rhode Island, but there are fragments of the attic of my brain which belong to the various homes we'd lived in when I was much younger. Most of these memories were unclear and pointless. Chasing after another boy in the backyard of a house in North Carolina, trying to build a raft afloat on the creek behind the apartment we rented in Pennsylvania, and so on. But there is one set of memories which remain as clear as glass, as though they were just made yesterday. I often wonder if these memories are simply lucid dreams produced by the long sickness I experienced that spring, but in my heart, I know they are real. We were living in a house just outside the bustling metropolis of New Vineyard, Maine, population 643. It was a large structure, especially for a family of 3. There were a number of rooms that I didn't see in the 5 months we resided there. In some ways, it was a waste of space, but it was the only house on the market at the time, at least within an hour's commute to my father's place of work. The day after my 5th birthday, attended by my parents alone, I came down with a fever. The doctor said I had mononucleosis, which meant no rough play and more fever for at least another 3 weeks. It was a horrible time. It was horrible timing to be bedridden. We were in the process of packing our things to move to Pennsylvania, and most of my things were already packed away in boxes, leaving my room barren. My mother brought me ginger ale and books several times a day, and these served the function of being my primary form of entertainment for the next few weeks. Boredom always loomed just around the corner, waiting to rear its ugly head and compound my misery. I don't exactly recall how I met Mr. Widemouth. I think it was about a week after I was diagnosed with mono. My first memory of the small creature was asking him if he had a name. He told me to call him Mr. Widemouth because his mouth was large. In fact, everything about him was large in comparison to his body. His head, his eyes, his crooked ears, but his mouth was by far the largest. "You kind of look like a Furby," I said as he flipped through one of my books. Mr. Widemouth stopped and gave me a puzzled look. "Furby? What's a Furby?" he asked. I shrugged. "You know, the toy, the little robot with the big ears. You can pet and feed them almost like a real pet." "Oh," Mr. Widemouth resumed his activity. "You don't need one of those. They aren't the same as having a real friend. I remember Mr. Widemouth disappearing every time my mother stopped by to check on me. I lay under your bed," he later explained. "I don't want your parents to see me because I'm afraid they won't let us play anymore." We didn't do much during those first few days. Mr. Widemouth just looked at my books, fascinated by the stories and pictures that they contained. The third or fourth morning after I met him, he greeted me with a large smile on his face. "I have a new game we can play," he said. "You have to wait until your mother comes to check on you, because she can't see us play it. It's a secret game." After my mother delivered more books and soda at the usual time, Mr. Widemouth slipped from under the bed and tugged my hand. "We have to go to the room at the end of this hallway," he said. I objected at first, as my parents had forbidden me to leave my bed without their permission, but Mr. Widemouth persisted until I gave in. The room in question had no furniture or wallpaper. Its only distinguishing feature was a room opposite the doorway. Mr. Widemouth darted across the room and gave the window a firm push, flinging it open. He then beckoned me to look at the ground below. We were on the second story of the house, but it was on a hill, and from this angle the drop was farther than 2 stories due to the incline. "I like to play pretend up here," Mr. Widemouth explained. "I pretend that there is a big, soft trampoline below the window, and I jump. If you pretend hard enough, you bounce up like a feather. I want you to try." I was a 5-year-old with a fever, so, with only a hint of skepticism, darted my thoughts as I looked around and considered the possibility. "It's a long drop," I said. "But that's all part of the fun. It wouldn't be fun if it was only a short drop. If it were that way, you may as well just bounce on a real trampoline." I toyed with the idea, picturing myself falling through thin air, only to bounce back to the window on something unseen by human eyes. But the realist in me prevailed. "Maybe some other time," I said. "I don't know if I have enough imagination. I could get hurt." Mr. Widemouth's face contorted into a snarl, but only for a moment. Anger gave way to disappointment. "If you say so," he said. He spent the rest of his day under my bed, quiet as a mouse. The following morning, Mr. Widemouth arrived holding a small box. "I want to teach you how to juggle," he said. "Here are some things you can use to practice before I start giving you lessons." I looked in the box. It was full of knives. "My parents will kill me!" I shouted, horrified that Mr. Widemouth has brought knives into my room, objects that my parents would never allow me to touch. "I'll be spanked and grounded for a year." Mr. Widemouth frowned. "It's fun to juggle with these. I want you to try it." I pushed the box away. "I can't. I'll get in trouble. Knives just aren't safe to just throw in the air." Mr. Widemouth's frown deepened into a scowl. He took the box of knives and slid under my bed, remaining there the rest of the day. I began to wonder how often he was under me. I started having trouble sleeping after that. Mr. Widemouth often woke me up at night, saying he put a real trampoline in the window, a big one that I couldn't see in the dark. I always declined and tried to go back to sleep, but Mr. Widemouth persisted. Sometimes he stayed by my side until early in the morning, encouraging me to jump. He wasn't so fun to play with anymore. My mother came to me one morning and told me that I had her permission to walk around outside. She thought the fresh air would be good for me, especially after being confined in my room for so long. Ecstatic, I put on my sneakers and trotted out to the back porch, yearning for the feeling of sun on my face. Mr. Widemouth was waiting for me. "I have something I want you to see," he said. I must have given him a weird look, because then he said, "It's safe, I promise." I followed him to the beginning of a deer trail which ran through the woods behind my house. "This is an important path," he explained. "I've had a lot of friends about your age. When they were ready, I took them down this path to a special place. You aren't ready yet, but one day I hope to take you there." I returned to the house, wondering what kind of place lay beyond that trail. 2 weeks after I met Mr. Widemouth, the last load of our things had been packed into a moving truck. I would be in the cab of that truck, sitting next to my father for the long drive to Pennsylvania. I considered telling Mr. Widemouth that I'd be leaving, but even at 5 years old, I was beginning to suspect that perhaps the creature's intentions were not to my benefit, despite what he had said otherwise. For this reason, I decided to keep my departure a secret. My father and I were in the truck at 4 a.m. He was hoping to make it to Pennsylvania by lunchtime tomorrow, with the help of an endless supply of coffee and a 6-pack of energy drinks. He seemed more like a man who was about to run a marathon rather than one who was about to spend 2 days sitting still. "Early enough for you?" my father asked with a hint of sympathy. I nodded and placed my head against the window, hoping for some sleep before the sun came up. I felt my father's hand on my shoulder. "This is the last move, son. I promise. I know it's hard for you, as sick as you've been. Once Daddy gets promoted, we can settle down and you can make friends." I opened my eyes as we backed out of the driveway. I saw Mr. Widemouth's silhouette in my bedroom window. He stood motionless until the truck was about to turn into the main road. He gave a pitiful little wave goodbye, steak knife in hand. I didn't wave back. Years later, I returned to the new vineyard. The piece of land our house stood upon was empty except for the foundation, as the house burned down a few years after my family left. Out of curiosity, I followed the deer trail that Mr. Widemouth had shown me. Part of me expected him to jump out from behind a tree and scare the living bejesus out of me, but I felt that Mr. Widemouth was gone, somehow tied to the house that no longer existed. The trail ended at New Vineyard Memorial Cemetery. I noticed that many of the tombstones belonged to children. So, that was the story of Mr. Widemouth. That's 1 out of 6. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin our second story shortly. Hold on, give me a second. Alright. Tweet sent for this new story. So now, the second story, the one that is, less good than Mr. Widemouth, I present to you... Oop. Okay, that's the third story revealed early. This is... The Amazing World of Gumball, The Grieving. Yes, this is the story... This is the actual story. Like, do you remember that one episode of The Amazing World of Gumball where they seemingly made fun of an internet creepypasta? Well, that was based on a real creepypasta that someone unironically, like with no hint of irony, wrote. So, with that being said, we're going to read the story that showed up in Amazing World of Gumball. Alright? So here it is. This was originally posted to Creepypasta Wiki before it was deleted for not exactly being the greatest. So here, without further ado, The Amazing World of Gumball, The Grieving. A second. The Amazing World of Gumball, The Grieving. I've always loved Cartoon Network, and when I was growing up, it was my favorite channel to watch. Even today, it has some good shows, like Adventure Time and Regular Show. One of the newest shows on the network, The Amazing World of Gumball, is a cute and mildly entertaining show. Not really my cup of tea, it's a little immature, but my little brother seems to like it a lot. One day, I was watching Adult Swim when I realized that I'd been up late. I'd been up so late that I hadn't even kept track of the time. It was already 4 a.m. I don't ever recall watching Adult Swim, this late, so I stayed awake to see what would happen when it ended. A little bumper showed up at the bottom of the screen during a commercial break. It said that a special episode of The Amazing World of Gumball was about to come on. I was a little confused about how an episode of a very popular new show was coming on this early. But I was bored and decided to watch it, thinking it might come on later in the day so I could spoil it with my brother. Sort of mean, you know. Hello everyone who's just coming into the stream. We are just beginning our second story, The Amazing World of Gumball, The Grieving. The flashy and energetic intro theme played, although it was played a little bit differently than I recall. The music was a little different, and the show's logo wasn't animated. Its colors were done rather sloppily as well. In fact, here, let me get to the image. The rather low-resolution image for you to see. Give me a second. There it is. Almost like something a little kid would do on a doodle board or a glow board. I ignored it, assuming that it was done just for this special episode. The title of the episode was The Grieving. A sort of sad title, but I didn't really pay too much attention. It began with Gumball, the show's 12-year-old protagonist, standing alone facing a corner of his dimly lit classroom. He looked absolutely miserable, a far cry from the cheerful demeanor he usually had. There was no one else in the room, not even his friend and adopted brother Darwin the goldfish, and the windows in the room clearly showed the night sky outside. I was starting to get confused. Why would he be at school at night? And why was he standing in the corner all sad and alone? After what seemed like a minute of Gumball standing somberly in the corner, the screen suddenly changed. We were in Gumball's house. Once again, the scene was silent and a little disquieting. Richard, Gumball's enormous rabbit father, walks in from the kitchen. He looked even more miserable than Gumball had in the previous scene. Richard wasn't wearing his usual attire. He's dressed in a fancy black suit, a little uncharacteristic of him as he's usually a slob. He sighs and slumps down into the sofa and starts sobbing intensely, sounding like someone who had just lost something important. I was starting to get a little creeped out. Where was the silly, fun cartoon that I usually looked forward to watching with my younger brother? This was something completely different. I was beginning to think this might have been something the creators did as an experiment or something, a test of the animation or sound perhaps, though it couldn't have been. Aside from the opening theme, which was still different from the final shows, the episode had been much quieter than it usually was, only subtle sounds and very little music. The animation was not anything to write home about either. It was done like an amateur flash on Newgrounds. The character designs were somewhat sloppy and rushed-looking, and the real-life backgrounds used for the show looked different. As confused and somewhat frightened as I was, for some reason I just kept watching it. Poor Richard was still sobbing on the sofa as the front door opened suddenly, making me jump a little bit at such a loud noise. This is what the... brace yourself. This is what the door sounds like, by the way. Just slams open. And Gumball's mother, a blue cat like him, stepped in. Like Richard, she wasn't wearing her usual outfit. For some reason, she was in a black dress and was wearing a pretty black hat to match. Nicole sat down on the couch to comfort her husband, although she was looking a bit saddened herself. By this point, Richard's crying had began to get more pained and miserable sounding. This wasn't the normal cartoon crying on this show. This was realistic and almost depressing crying. I almost felt like sobbing myself. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the sad scene at the home ended as it shifted back to the school. We weren't in Gumball's classroom this time. We were in Principal Brown's office. Nicole and Richard were there in their usual clothes, looking more normal and happy than they had before, but still slightly worried. Principal Brown, however, looked extremely sad. He quietly and somberly informed them that their children, Anais and Darwin, were not present after lunch earlier that day. They hadn't been seen at all the rest of the day. Nicole was instantly furious at him. She began spouting various insults and calls at him that I don't think would have made it on a more mature program like Regular Show. I was laughing at this because it seemed kind of funny for Nicole to flip out in this manner and start swearing like a sailor in a G-rated cartoon. But my outlook soon changed when Principal Brown told her something else after she finally had quieted down. His eyes began to tear up as he informed them that they eventually were found, but that they had not been found alive. He then went into graphic and nearly nauseating detail, describing how their bodies were found. The parents sitting in utter shock. I could hardly believe this was happening. How could such a cheery and fun kids show be taking such a dark and twisted turn? I was considering turning the television off, but I was too scared to be left in the dark by now, nearly frozen by fear, and disturbed intensely at the terrible things that he was saying. Another flashback of this scene was earlier in the day, and the animation in this scene was even worse than earlier. I don't remember it very clearly, but I think he began his recollection by saying that the school had called the police department when they first turned up missing, believing that the kid had simply ran off and decided to skip school. They said it was very uncharacteristic of both Darwin and Anais to go skipping school like delinquents. Darwin was a bit naive and a bit ditzy, but he was a good kid and wouldn't have even dreamed of doing something like that. And Anais was even less likely to run away. She was a straight-A student despite only being 4, which also troubled the police, seeing as a defenseless 4-year-old little girl was missing as well as an older boy. The school had been thoroughly checked, so the police decided to search the heavily wooded area outside the school. It took little time for the police to discover the horrifying fate of Anais. Just as a heads up, content warning, and in fact I'll update the title soon, but content warning. In a small clearing outside the school, Anais's head was found in a small box. You likely would have expected something like that to be shown in the show's cutesy art style, but it was nothing like that at all. Realistic blood covered the box inside and out, while Anais's head was done in the normal style, but was drenched in blood and some other fluids, not all of them were hers apparently. There was a note on the box, seemingly written in her blood. It never stated during the episode what exactly was written on the note, but it apparently led to the rest of her remains and Darwin's heavily mutilated corpse. What I remember most about this scene was how out of place it seemed. All the blood and gore from Darwin and Anais's slaughtered and dismembered remains were done in a very realistic and disturbing way. It looked like the scene had been taken from a crime scene photograph, done by a professional, not something from a cartoon. The way this scene was animated was different from most of the show as well. You may know that the characters from this series were done in vastly differing animation styles, from flash animation to CGI, and I think there's even a character done by someone putting their chin upside down to make a face. This particular scene wasn't like anything I had ever seen in the show before. Every little detail on Darwin's face was clearly illustrated. He looked a little like a zombie. His face was very pale, and content warning, and his eyes had been gouged out by someone. Anais fared no better. She was naked and her stomach had been slit open. Her intestines were strewn around the trees and bushes in her woods, done once again in a very morbid and realistic style. I was feeling very ill by the time this incredibly disturbing flashback had come to an end, so I quickly ran to the bathroom to vomit. I was feeling better after upchucking, so I had realized that I had good timing and had ran to the bathroom during a commercial. I then realized the show had been running twice as long. It usually ran for 11 minutes, but this episode had been running for about 30. By then, I was wondering if there was any information on The Grieving on IMDb or something. So while the commercials were still playing, I looked up some information about the episode on Google. Nothing came up. No information remotely similar to the plot or the name of the episode existed anywhere. Now, incredibly scared and wondering if anyone else was watching, I quickly dialed my brother Larry and asked him to turn on Cartoon Network to see if he was seeing the same shit I was. He was pretty mad that I woke him up at this hour, but he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. And told me he would see for me. I thanked him and stayed on the line as the show came back from commercial break. The scene had thankfully panned away from the children's mutilated and was back to the principal's office. I asked Larry if he saw some cartoon animals talking or crying, since that was what they were doing on my TV. To my surprise, he said he saw nothing like that. Instead, it was a rerun of an old Looney Tunes short. In utter shock, I dropped the phone and ran over to the TV to turn it off, and as hard as I pressed the buttons, it would not shut off. At all. I tried every single button, and none of them did a thing. I tried unplugging the whole thing as well, but nothing worked. The TV stayed on no matter what. Larry had hung up, assuming that I was playing a joke or something, I guess, and I was all alone once again. My door was locked from the outside somehow, and the door to my bathroom was now locked as well. It seemed that I had no choice but to call the police, since my family members were gone that night. It was the reason why I could stay up so late to watch Adult Swim in the first place. As I hurriedly dialed the number, I accidentally dropped my cell phone into my cup of Pepsi. I was very scared, and had no choice but to finish the episode. I turned on all the lights in my room and got under the covers, hiding like my little brother does when I make him watch scary movies with me. I had apparently missed a little bit, but Gumball's parents were still talking to Principal Brown, so not that much. Nicole was asking him if Gumball was alright, apparently since she hadn't remembered him when Principal Brown told her what had happened to Darwin and Anais. He looked slightly confused and shocked for a moment, and explained to her that she thought Gumball was out sick today, and explained that he had spent the day at home by himself with a stomach bug. Nicole screamed and wailed while Richard quietly told him, in a very out-of-character voice, that they had thought Gumball had gone on the bus this morning, but it didn't seem that way. The police were called once again to search the building in small forest outside of Elmore Junior High. They had found him in Miss Cinnamон's classroom, hanging by a noose, with a blood-covered knife behind him, and blood covering his clothing. The episode ended with the shot of Gumball's dead body hanging there in the corner, fading to black. The credits rolled silently, not in the usual way Cartoon Network annoyingly airs a promo that squishes half the screen. These credits were rolled unusually slow. Wait, Cartoon Network? I thought this was Adult Swim. These credits rolled unusually slow, and they weren't that fun to watch either. A little creepy. Just plain white text scrolling on a black background. I quickly recognized Ben Petrulikrit, I think that's how you pronounce its name, as he was the creator of the show, and the rest of the people I'd never heard of. The copyright notice at the end said Copyright Cartoon Network Studios, 2001, which was incredibly odd, seeing as the show was new for 2011. After that was over, the screen went to static for a split second, during which some incredibly creepy and shocking video clips were shown between static intervals. I can remember them all very clearly. The first was a picture of a person in a plague doctor outfit. Those had all scared me for some reason. And the way the person in the suit... I'm not reading that. I'm just not going to read that part. The last one was the one that disturbed me the most and made me want to both cry and vomit my guts out. It was my little brother, or at least a small child, who looked very similar to him being shot in the face by a person who looked like my father. You could clearly see the child's brains and blood spatter on the wall. I began to sob uncontrollably after that traumatizing clip, so much that I passed out. Okay, then. I read this. There's still some more left, by the way. I read this, like, years and years ago, but I totally forgot that all this shit was in there. I suppose it's why they couldn't mention it, besides just the grieving. When I woke up, my door was unlocked and my television was turned off. I went to call the police on the home phone in the kitchen and report that I had seen some very disturbing things on TV and that my door had been locked. When they arrived, they could find nothing in what I remembered early this morning. My internet history was even cleared. Wait, what the fuck were you doing on the internet? They were angry at me and just assumed that I had a bad nightmare when I was sure I hadn't. Thankfully, one of the officers felt bad for me and took me out to a small dinner so I could recollect my thoughts. At the dinner, I remembered that my family was out visiting my aunt, and they were supposed to be back by noon or so. It was already 11, so the officer and I drove back only to find a whole squad of police cars and even some government agents at my house. They explained to me my little brother was missing and that my mother and father were major suspects. I was freaking out and trying to tell them about the disturbing clip with the boy who looked like my brother being shot in the head, but they wouldn't listen. I stayed with my older brother, Larry, who wouldn't believe me either, insisting that all he saw was an old Looney Tunes cartoon, and nothing at all creepy or weird. The cops eventually told me they would contact Turner Broadcasting and tell me about the incident. A representative of Turner Broadcasting came to my cousin's house to talk to me in private about what I had seen and experienced that night. He was very kind, but it all remembered a little like some sort of front. After I could tell him all I remembered, he agreed to play back that day's programming from when the incident with the disturbing Gumball episode occurred. To my shock, all that was airing at that time was an old Looney Tunes short. Nothing more, nothing less. I hysterically sobbed and moaned that what I had experienced and seen was completely real. But no one listened. Eventually I learned that Ben Petroliquet had a Twitter account, so I sent a message about the episode, and this was the reply I got. One thing. How in the heck did you find that? I never, ever thought I would think about that old shame again. Don't tell anyone this, Sarah. Yes, that's my name. But the amazing world of Gumball goes further than you know. I used to have a really boring job as a teen, and I sketched little drawings of the Watterson and friends. The episode you saw was never supposed to be seen by anyone but me and a few friends of mine. It was a very awful thing to do. I made the episode as a joke. A guy from my old job, who everyone hated, had lost a child to a crazed serial killer, who is apparently still out there. Anyway, we made it, so we could make fun of how I came to work usually, crying like a fool, which is why you saw Mr. and Mrs. Watterson cry so much in the episode. So why was it animated like the normal episodes then? Surely it would have been different, right? I know I am deeply sorry for what I did, which is why I tried to bury that stupid thing years ago. Literally, I went down to the countryside with my mates and dug a hole and buried it. What I don't get, though, is how you describe the blood and guts and stuff. We didn't have any scene with Dara and Anais's bodies being found. All that happens in the episodes is the parents are informed of their kids being found dead and crying like crazy. We didn't even draw anything in the episode like that at all. We're not that sick. Now, here's my theory. The lunatic who killed the man's child found the episode that we've buried, watched it, and heavily edited it. Then he hijacked your local TV station near Beep. I blocked out the name of the city. I'm paranoid and it's a small town. Somehow, and got the episode to air on your local Cartoon Network station. Now, why your brother couldn't see it, I have no idea. Why it seems you're the only one who saw it, I have no idea either. Sorry, but I just don't know. Now, for the explanation you've been waiting for, the clips at the end. I don't know. I don't. I'm deeply sorry for the bottom of my heart, but I don't know why those clips were aired. I just don't. I'm sorry, I really am, but me and my mates are just the one who made those scenes with Richard and Nicole crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so deeply sorry. Best wishes, Ben Petroliquet and everyone involved with the Grieving. So that was something. I'm going to go ahead. Give me a second. Real quick. Alright, let's see. Scooby Creepypastas reading. Content warning. There we go. Alright, so that was the Grieving. And I'm going to be right back for just a second, and we will return with our third story of the night. So don't go anywhere. Alright, hello everyone, hello, and welcome back. We're now up to our third story of the night. We're halfway there. And hold on, give me a second. Let me bring it up. Our third story of the night. Cove. It's a creepypasta classic. I know some of you might be familiar with Cove. So, let's take a look, shall we? Alright. And also, I wanted to say, I should have content warned the stream earlier. And I'm sorry for not doing that. I wanted to go into this creepypastas blind, but I had a basic expectation of what these are, because I've kind of read these before. I totally forgot that all that shit was in the Grieving. So, please, you know, I'm really sorry for not properly content warning that story. Anyway, we're now going to begin our third story of the night, which is Cove. So, with that being said, this one's a bit short, but here we go. It comes most often at night. That niggling memory, gnawing at some corner of your mind like a rodent chewing the corners of the drywall. The memory of some brightly lit cartoon funland or world of puppets. A memory of a TV show you would watch, seated cross-legged in the living room with the fixed, enthusiastic attention only a child can give. Attention that you wish now you perhaps hadn't given up so freely. For there is something about that show, something about the discordant music, the details of the characters, their motivations and storylines, the fixed maniacal grins, that seems, looking back, to be altogether too sinister to be a children's show. You try to block the memory out, and yet, in the back of your mind, most often at night, the puppet's fixed grin keeps on smiling. Overview. Cove is a widely known and popular creepypasta about a fixed number of posters on the childhood nostalgia forum. As the posters show their recollections, they collectively remember, become more and more sinister with the characters viewed clearly being unsuitable for children's viewing. Net nostalgia forum, television, local. Skytail 033. Subject. Cove local children's show? Does anyone remember this kids show? It was called Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. Mike Painter 65. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland, was 9 years old in 72. Cove, was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Skytail 033. Yes, okay, so I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls, real low budget. His head was an old porcelain baby doll, looked kind like an antique that didn't belong in the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF, though. Jaren, 2005. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what you mean, Skies Hail. I think Cove ran for only a few months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My brother would let me switch to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Candle Cove, and was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily. And there was calliope music constantly playing. I don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something? I think it was Janice. Sky's Hail, 033. Thank you, Jaren. Memories flooded back to me when you mentioned the Laughingstock in Channel 58. I remember the bow of the ship was a wooden, smiling face with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing the sea and had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I specifically remember how jarring it was when they switched from the puppet/plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. Mike Painter, 65. Yeah, I remember now, too. Remember this part, Sky's Hail? You have to go inside. Sky's Hail 033. Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in, like a cave or a dark room or where the treasure was. The camera would push into Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and that flopping foam jaw and that fishing line that opened and closed it. Ugh, it just looks so cheap and awful. You guys remember this villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. Kevin_Hart. Kevin Hart, okay. I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare fuel. Jaren, 2005. That wasn't the villain, the puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick, Horus Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on the top of the mustache. I usually think that meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe they let us watch that back then. Kevin_Hart. Jesus H. Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of kids show are we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings like a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape. And his glass eyes that were too big for a skull. Christ almighty. Sky's Hail, 033. Wasn't his top hat and cloak sewn all crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Mike_Painter 65. Yeah, I think so. Remember, his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the Skin Taker didn't look at the girl but to the camera and said, "To grind your skin." Sky's Hail 033. I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory. A bad dream where the opening jingle ended, the show faded from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting into each of their faces, and they were all screaming. The puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, and they were just all screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up so many times in that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. It's Kevin Hart. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. Sky's Hail 033. No. Not possible. There was no plot or anything. It was, I mean, literally just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Kevin_Hart. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God I remember seeing that what you described. They just screamed. Jaren_ 2005. Oh, God, yes. The little girl, Janice, I remember seeing her shake, and the Skin Taker screaming through his gnashing teeth, his jaw careening so widely I thought it would just come off of its wire hinges. I turned it off, and that was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother, and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. Mike_Painter 65. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about it when I was little in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kid's show, Candle Cove. She said she was surprised. I could remember that, and I asked why, and she said, because I used to think how it was so strange that you said, I'm gonna go watch Candle Cove now, Mom. And you would turn on the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination for your little pirate show. Credit. Chris Straub. Yeah, Chris Straub wrote this. That's Candle Cove, ladies and gentlemen. A creepypasta classic, and yes, the same Chris Straub who makes all those videos on the internet. Alright, let me write. And now for our fourth story of the night. Blood Whistle. I'll send the tweet out now. Blood Whistle. Let me go ahead and get the first image ready. Yeah? Hold on. Oop, okay. Bit broken. Let me fix that. Give me a second here, folks. Here it is. The Blood Whistle. Alright. This is what the Blood Whistle looked like. This is the recorded blog of a college student who was playing a modified version of Super Mario Bros. 3 on his computer. Shortly after submitting the last entry, he committed suicide in his dorm room. June 5th, 2012. A friend of mine's recently sent to me what he claims to be a scary Super Mario Bros. 3 hack that he wanted me to try out because he didn't have the courage. I started this blog to record my progress of the game. He got this from a site that's no longer active, and I've seen some pretty scary occurrences of emulator games before. I mean, just look at Ben. All of that aside, however, there was something definitely off about this ROM. Its title was SMB3, BW. Anyhow, I won't play any today as I'm quite busy with college work and such, but I will definitely start tomorrow. June 6, 2012. I played some of the game today. Obviously my friend was just informed, as I have just played through all of 1-3, and I found nothing irregular. All the sprites, levels, and sounds didn't have a fluke to their name. Wait, a secret? That must be how you have to unlock it. I swear, you guys, I'll find the warp tomorrow and see what creepy secrets this game has to hide. Look for tomorrow's post. It won't disappoint. Maybe that will explain what the BW in the title stands for. June 7th, 2012. Give me a second to get the photo that it has here. Up here. This is a very photo-heavy creepypasta, if you cannot tell. Blood Whistle. Hear its cry. I wish I hadn't unlocked that secret. This game will be the bane of my existence. I'll try my best as I can to explain what happened and what will certainly entail, but I don't know if any of you will believe me. But this sick mockery of one of my childhood favorites must be exploited and never seen by the eyes of any other breathing man on God's green earth. And Todd, what I'll call my friend for the sake of privacy and possibly security, do not send that link to anyone else. You'll see why below. Photo on the screen. My first encounter with the blood whistle. I entered the castle stage knowing its only secret was the warp whistle. I disposed of the dry bones before donning a raccoon tail. With a running start, I was flying above the stage until I hit the secret area. My whole life before I hit up on my narrow keypad was completely different. I was happy. I was normal. I could wake up in the morning, recognizing my own reflection, being absolute about my own safety. Now it's lies. Oh, lies! I know that as of what happened today, my life will become an infernal hell in which every day will be a futile struggle to retain my own sanity. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. Oh, man. Hold on, give me a second. As you can see, the blood whistle doesn't want me to keep reading the story. Ooh. After embracing this wretched college of electronic detection, I will embrace death like a long-lost lover with open arms, now to get on with what has come to pass. The blocks that lined the wall were a gloomy, albeit a polished obsidian black. Mario's skin now had a grayish tint to it, but that wasn't what was wrong with that picture. The music was a sped-up version of the normal bonus room theme. Toad's skull was cracked open and profusely bleeding, spilling blood onto the floor and making the room slippery like an ice stage. That's a lot of blood. His mouth was also agape and spewing blood onto the floor. The room had an eerie, reflective quality that should have been graphically impossible for an 8-bit game like Mario 3. I walked up to him to see what it is that he might say. What he had to offer is this. Blood whistle. Hear its cry. I then ran towards the chest to see its contents. The chest was drenched in a reflective, realistic blood of the same type emanated by the orifice and exposed cranium of the poor little mushroom-headed fellow. Pressing onward, I ran through it to discover its dark secret. I ran through its twisted surprise. I wasn't prepared for the following events. A blood-soaked warp whistle ominously rose from what I now believe to be the deepest crevice of hell. It blipped twice, as any normal whistle would. That, my fellow reader, was the only normality of what I have played today. It played a deep tune that I can't get out of my head as I write this. The whistle descended, violently striking Mario in the chest. He unleashed a blood-curdling scream as it went into his back and out of his chest. This cry wasn't 8-bit at all. It wasn't even cartoonesque. It was the sound of unfiltered anguish, of utter agony. His expression reflected the same. To end my experience in this perverse version of something I once loved, Mario was transported to the warp zone of the blood whistle. I call it this because it had only the cookie-cutter outline of the quaint island. The water consisted solely of the same blood aforementioned in my encounter with the whistle. Corpses of Koopas and other enemies of Mario were scattered afloat near the shores. White, menacing eyes glared at me beneath the waves, surfacing just to cast their evil glance at Mario. Or me, I can't be sure at this point. All the worlds were indicated by their respective numbers. All of the dots were crimson. At this point, I noticed yet another abnormality, this time concerning the dot for World 8. Beside it were two 8-bit patches of fire that twisted and contorted in place. Without me pressing any buttons, the whistle stabbed Mario in the ribs. It cued him to move to the World 2 dot. Refusing to pay any further attention to the horrors that surely wait in the deserted desert, I saved the game and quit. I have played more than enough of my fill for today. Thank you, Pikmin Bloom, for vibrating my phone for that important notification of the number of steps I've taken today. I guess that I figured out the acronym for this ROM title. It meant Blood Whistle the hard way. Despite the horrors that plague this abomination, I will continue to subject myself to this suffering for the sake of all of you. Well, also for mine. It'll help me keep track of the days, and maybe this desperate attempt to cling to my stable frame of mind won't prove to be in total vain. There are 5,000 people that have followed this blog in the 2 days it's up. After this pointedly interesting post, I'm hoping to have some more. For those of you following my post, read tomorrow's and share with your friends. I need you to expose the stark luridness of the shell of something I once knew and loved. Well, that was a very dramatic blog post for a spooky Mario game. Let's keep going with this. June 8th, 2012. Well, I did it. I managed to clench the fickle fibers of my perception of reality long enough to play through World 2. I have come to the conclusion that whoever made this is completely and utterly deranged. There's been a rusted gear, a broken spring of the mechanics of their sadistic mind. Their only purpose in creating this mod was to mentally and psychologically flagellate the naive soul poor enough to take the bait of its mysterious origin. Well, I'm certainly naive to fall into that category. I digress. To the experience. I find myself asking how I could have missed major things like yesterday when I saved the game in this world. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Blood of the same texture from before was just splattered across the desert sands as sands itself was. Solitary eyes watched me from the pyramids. Pentagrams and other satanic symbols were also infrequent in the environment. Could this hack be a work of the Illuminati? Okay, enough pondering. I need to finish this grim tale. Ooh. Skeletons of Koopas littered this bleak landscape. There was a distinct disturbance of Mario's appearance, though. He looked starved and parched, as one would typically look after a few days in the desert. Mario then moved into the 2-1 block without my command, and the music began to play shortly after. This was a reversed version of the overworld theme. Whispers and other paranormal phenomena could be heard playing in harmony throughout the music, saying cryptic things. After about a minute, I began to record the sound, albeit as soon as possible. He never did. But I definitely can't do it today. One of the most distinct things I kept hearing was, "Let the whistle guide you," and "The instrument of blood plays the sweetest tune." This creeped me out, needless to say, but this of all things wouldn't prevent me from playing out the remainder of this game. The stage itself was very scary. The sky was grayish-blue, accompanied by an almost white sun. The colors weren't bright or cheery in the slightest. The pyramid blocks were faded and cracked, and the wooden blocks were obviously rotting. Mario's sprite was visibly starving and pleading for thirst. The fire creatures fixedly stared at me like a shark stares at a school of fish, seeming to know who their next meal was. The neutral expressions of the Koopas had changed into ones of converged disgust and loathe. I had obtained the raccoon by now, so I ran along the pipe-looking platform and took off. I flew for a while, which was nice. Mario's face changed as well, being the normal happy smile you would usually see throughout the entire game. I relished in the few moments of happiness I sought from this game. These moments were mercilessly ended within the course of a few seconds. The sky flashed a gloomy black before the blood whistle came and impaled the poor plumber yet again. Mario fell, his corpulent figure going limp until he hit the ground with a thump I swore I could feel. He was miraculously alive, his body twitching in a feeble attempt to rise. A fire creature jumped on Mario, who was now pinned to the ground and screaming in pain. His scream was bitterly realistic. It reeked His scream was bitterly realistic. It reeked of such ineffable pain it hurts me now to describe the sheer degree of torture this character was put through. There he was, burning and seething in pain, and there I sat completely powerless, forced to watch what I thought was the end of his trials on World 2. I was so wrong. The level came into view. Whistle threw back. Mario was transported to one of the pyramid levels. When the level started, the background was an egregious smoke-filled black. Bursts of lightning filled the sky with illumination. Winged demons in flight were visible upon these strikes. Also in the sky glowed stagnantly lit pentagrams and 666. Give me a slight second. Mario was being carried by two of Bowser's sons up from one of the game's pyramid structures. However, this particular structure was vastly different than the regular ones. The bricks were cracked and faded with age. The edges were jagged with dried blood caked each block. Nothing but a heavy drumbeat and the sounds of thunder played in the background. The thunder didn't play in unison with lightning as happens in most games. There was an eerie, realistic pause between the flare of the lightning and the boom of the thunder. As the top of the structure was reached, I saw the worst thing yet. Give me a second. Bowser towered above everyone else, intimidating and terrible. Below stood four of his sons, two of which had carried Mario, Morton, Iggy, Ray, and Von Koopa. Above the entire scene were the words Blood Whistle in bright red neon letters. Bowser's face had to have been 10 times more evil than I had ever seen it. His green shell was cracked, and his white spines had been dripped in blood. Let's see. Hold on, I lost my place. Hold on. Blood Whistle will return shortly once I find where the fuck I am reading this. Blood was fresh on his teeth, also as his serpentine tongue licked them, making clear his intentions on what to do with Mario after he had disposed of him. It was then that I came to a dooming realization. Mario can't die. The game won't let him. However many things are thrown at him, in however many ways he is brutally maimed, mortality will not escape him. For a time, that is, he continues to be sustained by whatever dark force or sick mind that drives the rest of these occurrences to passing until the game's eventual end, in which he will ruefully and painfully perish. Now that has been said, to continue today's experience. Suddenly, Von Koopa produced a dagger. It gleamed with uncanny realism in the light of the blood whistle sign that loomed above. After a brief pause, he began to slice Mario's chest open. Mario then brayed that fearful cry, a cry that implied he would die only to endure torture of 10,000 times the magnitude. Tears streamed as he faced. Tears streamed down his face as Vaughn removed his heart, still pumping. He handed it to Bowser, who ate it with a crunching chomp. His sons laughed as he did this, blood flowing from Mario's exposed abdomen. With a bark from their twisted father, the sons shamelessly began to regurgitate and tear apart what was open. As they were doing this, Mario slowly turned his head towards me and uttered a single question through tears and blood. Why? I myself asked this very same question. Why would they treat him as an animal, if not less, for their amusement? Why would someone initiate the genesis of such a horrid contraption? A contraption in which life and death have no meaning and are manipulates. A contraption in which concepts such as morals, remorse, and mercy are completely foreign. It makes me shudder to think that there is someone sick enough out there to put a character through this kind of unbearable hell just to sit back and laugh. It makes me absolutely sick to my core. Oh, that reminds me of another thing. You're probably wondering as to why I complacently talk about Mario as if he's a human being. A human who suffers pain, sorrow, depression, starvation, and thirst like the rest of us. A human that is capable of fearing happiness, remorse, goodwill, and love like anyone else. Because as we know, Mario feels none of these things. Please don't stop following this blog because you think I'm insane. Please! That will come later. I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that this game is a character with complex range of emotions. Someone who feels like you and me, but it's just a game, right? It's just a contrived mix of code and data put together to present words and images, correct? Wrong. I know with everything inside of me that Mario has to be alive. I have seen him truly happy and truly sad. At one point, I may even see him truly angry. He feels like any other living, breathing human being. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know how someone so human could rise from something so fully, truly inhuman. A character with a soul seemed completely impossible to me before I played this hack. I now have a goal to this game. To keep this poor creature... This poor Italian creature... This poor creature safe. I suppose I know now the real truth. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Same place? Same time. Why is he writing this like... what's up with the same place, same time? Okay. Alright. June 9th, 2012. It's me again. I had a horrible range of nightmares last night that are a direct result of me playing this game. Some really weird stuff also went down. Before I get into today's gameplay, this gameplay is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I'm just kidding. Before I get into today's gameplay, I'll have to go through them with you guys so I'll have an interactive record of my dreaming habits ahead related to this game. I myself am having a hard time as to how they were so close to home, and what they mean for my seemingly inevitable downfall. Before I tell you this, I have to let you in on a piece of relevant information. Are you ready? In the 4th grade, I used to play the recorder. Every kid had to learn some musical skill, and I liked wind instruments because of their method of play, appearance, and sound. Such is the irony of the instrument that has caused me all this grief. In my dream, I was playing the instrument in a dark room. It was my 4th grade self, just coolly playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Out of nowhere, I began to cough. I had choked on some blood that had materialized within and around my recorder. It covered it and soon filled it. Blood began to pour in great quantity out of all of the recorder's holes. It soon began to float in midair and hover. A few seconds passed, and then it struck me in the chest. It had impaled me, going directly through my heart and every other vital artery I could think of. I woke up. My plates, my sheets, plastered to my bare chest with sweat. I was completely fine. Not a scratch. As I sat there in bed, afraid of how I'm sure the game did this. Or maybe it was just me losing my sanity. I began to hear noise coming to my laptop. It was close, but a faint, muffled humming sound was clearly audible. I warily approached my computer, the machine almost looking alive. I then opened it up. It was a picture of an SMB3 Raccoon Mario sprite on a black backdrop. He was chained up on his legs and feet, and the chains reached outside of the screen. The blood whistle sat at the centerpiece of it all through Mario's chest. The tune of the blood whistle played over and over, a loop that only exacerbated the sound within the walls of my psyche. I tried exiting out of whatever this program might have been, but the window didn't close. Eventually, I had to take off my laptop battery, which didn't sit too well with my OS. Luckily, I didn't lose any files. Now for the gameplay. I was on a weak imitation of a World 3 level map. The water was none other than blood. Ravenous fish jumped out of the water, looks of primal hunger on their faces. There was something off about Mario's map representation, as I noticed right away. Along with its raccoon tail, the blood whistle was now a permanent fixture through his body. His skin had dulled a little from its prior shade of gray, now more outwardly noticeable. His mustache had dots of red clung to it as well. Without my or Mario's control, needless to say, I was moved to the first underwater stage. A cherry red tint absorbed the entire screen. This was to be expected, as the water looked blood-ridden from the outside as well. I swam down the left side of the lever to get a fire mushroom. As soon as Mario got it, he got an evil simper on his face. Give me a second, I need some water for this line. Okay. Let's do this. He looked at me and said, "Revenge, yes?" I confirmed his suspicions, and we set off for the danger that lurked near. The fish cast malevolent gazes at Mario as he swam by, incinerating them. His normal, happy smile returned. So did mine. The annihilation of the carnivorous critters didn't last long, as both Mario and I faced a hellish dilemma. There was a large fish with razor-sharp teeth. Below him were two power-up blocks, one black-looking and one purple-looking. I assumed these were supposed to mean red and blue. Obviously, there was no progress from this point without finding out what the blocks had in store. Mario's expression turned back into its gaunt appearance, knowing that he has had for the majority of the game. Knowing that I had no other choice, I dauntingly hit on the block that was black in appearance to the left. The fish swam around from its position on top of us and began to tear off Mario's limbs. By the time a group of fish had congregated around the entire scene, their laughs were deep and short, registering as barks for the 8-bit sound processor. Mario's unable body wobbled as he bled out, spewing black across the red. When he finally died, the big fish began to laugh. With a couple seconds, Mario's limbs regrew. With a blue block remaining, I had to get this all over with. Bubbles started crying out from Mario's mouth. He cried for help, but that only made the problem worse. He sucked in tons of water, his hand around his neck. His face began to go from gray to blue in a matter of moments. He kicked and fought, but he only wore himself down. Getting angry, he began to incinerate random fish that gathered in the crowd. The fish began to grow louder. For every fish he killed, 2 more appeared in its place. After a while, he just gave up. I watched Mario utter his last gurgle on World 3. The blood whistle stabbing and taking him away. I saved and quit with haste. See you all tomorrow. June 10th, 2012. Campus police gave me a visit today. Apparently, one of you had reported my comments related to suicide and claimed that I was insane. As a result, I have eliminated all personal information from this blog. I located the person who reported me and banned him. I also have an IP tracker, so don't any of you try that. Speaking of followers, 50,000. I had never expected this page to accumulate that many active viewers. Whatever this popularity or notoriety I came from, I'm grateful. Now, for today's gameplay. After today, I'll be lucky to finish the game. Princess Toadstool's letter arrived after the previous screen from World 3 faded out. She was squirming and shifting around. Bowser's hand covered her mouth, but it was easy to see the fear in her eyes. They darted left and right in stark, true fear. Bowser continued to have that sadistic smile on his face as he struggled with her. After a while, after about a minute and a half, Peach began to change. Her eyes grew an ominous red as she pushed Bowser's arm away with inhuman strength. She cackled like a loon, blue veins bulging so noticeably that they were clearly visible through her white satin gloves. Bowser began to cower in timidity. The text of the letter said only this: "Blood whistle. Hear its cry. Peach." The letter scene was abruptly cut off, and the World 4 level select map was brought into view. Give me a second. Goombas and Koopas of all sizes appeared, furious and hungry than ever. This addition made sense. This was a giant/tiny world. The shown enemies were being mentioned as such. The normally green grass was withered and dead. The small patches of water were blood. Mario was still in the fireball fatigues that he had donned in World 3. When compared to the other worlds, the map view for this one was vastly less disturbing. I would go so far as to call this tolerable. Mario moved towards 4-1 into whatever nightmarish scenario the stage had offer. The stage had the usual kinks of any level in the game. The sky was black, which made the white clouds vibrantly contrast. A reversed version of the ground level once again played. The wood, as it had been before, was decaying and wasting away beneath Mario's feet. The pipes were faded and cracked in various places. All the enemies still processed the same carnivorous looks of their intergame counterparts. There was, oddly enough, a very startling abundance of them. Koopas and Goombas danced around in a ritualistic manner. Mario was visibly petrified as he tried to avoid them, my arrow keys keeping them inches away from his life. Amidst all the din, there hovered a solitary parrot block. It was regular in appearance. Nothing was outwardly off about this, which greatly surprised me. Not knowing which horrid item it contained, I bumped it in blind vain that maybe it could help me. You can most likely infer from the information I made in the preceding paragraph that I was entirely mistaken. What I appeared next was dreaded. That damn whistle. It was sitting there, blood washing over it as it rose from the yellow square. It sat there almost beckoning my name. With the imposing enemies I knew I had no other choice. I took the weapon from its place, fruitlessly hoping for the best, ready expecting the worst. The on-screen foes ceased all activity. Their faces returned to a neutral blank state. 5 minutes they stood in place like this, not moving a muscle. I jumped down and tried to kill them, but no avail. It was almost like they were frozen within the confines for time itself. As if for specifically them, all interstellar and physical continuity came to a careening halt. Then they began to move. After the first couple did it, I realized what was truly going on. This was a mass suicide. Most of them just jumped into the nearest hole, but others performed incredible feats of aerobatics and medical possibility. One Koopa was bashing his head in on a pipe. Another Goomba jumped 6 or 7 times his own height, turned around in the air, and sent blood flying everywhere with a great splat. Soon all the enemies were dead. The remains were simultaneously upchunked from the trench below. A grisly mixture of guts and gore littered the entire remainder of the level. Mario shuffled through the remains, horrified, with tears streaming through his face throughout. Random deep, bassy tones played with nothing else to accompany. Random, squishy sounds were emitted every time Mario took a step in the scattered carnage. He continued to cry for the duration of the level. The whistle faded into view and followed Mario a few inches above his head, like a pestilential virus. After he cleared it, of course, the whistle went straight through his chest as Mario was hit to World 5. The game had a habit of putting me where it needs to be, so I closed it when I felt saving. Witnessing all that death really racked my nerves. Sure, it might have been a game, but with the things that the game had to present to me, I was starting to lose my perception of reality. I hope to see you all tomorrow. I don't know how much longer I can put up with a game. No, it's not a game. I couldn't tell you what this is. If you would die in the game, you would die in real life. Ha 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 ha. Alright, hold on. Alright. June 11th, 2012. Today being D-Day fits, because I'm fighting one hell of a war against this game, and losing one at that. At least there are no more mishaps with you all so far, which puts me at rest. As of today's gameplay, I fear for my own life. I fear as if something is coming after me, lurking, seeking me out as to make immediate my demise. Never before has anything like this ever happened. Never before has anything electronic made me truly afraid. Truly scared. I will most likely get no sleep tonight. Nothing in particular occurred, it's just, you'll find out below. I was in the middle of the cloud portion of World 5. The sky theme played, except it was drastically slow and demonic whispers were clearly audible. The whispers were almost the same as the ones I'd heard back in World 2. Mario was outfitted with the same Tanuki suit, which naturally suited the environment. There was nothing except two things, a red dot and a card game. The card game icon looked similar enough to its regular game clone, except the spades rolled across a red background instead of a blue one. Now, for whatever reason, I was allowed to choose which path to take. I chose to do the card game, hoping it would serve as some sort of reprieve for all the madness. That was not the choice. Not the right choice. Toad didn't explain the rules of the game like normal. Instead, I was plunged into the rolling slots. Besides this slot was a risky scenario. Toad was on a guillotine. He looked at the camera with timid, teary eyes. He was also vigorously shaking his head. He shook his hands in a futile attempt to free himself from the appalling apparatus, but nothing came of it. The entire picture engulfed me so much I didn't even notice the slots. I cautiously pressed them, trying as best I could to line them up given the stress of the situation. I failed, and I had to pay the personal price. The blade fell with breathtaking speed. Toad was beheaded right then and there. His head did a couple of spins in the air before landing in a conveniently placed nearby basket. The initial spins flayed blood across the right room. Blood filled the basket and filled it up. Toad's body splaying blood from the stump where his head used to be. Out of nowhere, the blood whistle came down and struck his torso. The screen faded out and back into the map. I was moved to the only remaining destination in World 5. Silent lightning streaked across the licorice black sky. Gray clouds and Mario were the only ones consistently visible things. And Mario were the only other consistently visible things. As far as everything goes, the silhouettes of winged demons flew and danced in the background. I tried turning into the bone structure the Tanuki suit is so famous for, but it failed. No music at all played, none at all. The demons would be heard and whispering in what seemed like a variety of languages. Spanish, German, and Latin were the most prevalent ones. A primal fear of the unknown gripped me as I blindly navigated the level. Judging by the look on Mario's face, it plagued him also. This stemmed from childhood, which made it all the worse. I not only felt Mario was in danger, I felt as if my livelihood and well-being were also in danger. At that moment, one of the demons swooped down. I would say the most accurate way to describe this creature would be a miniature Cthulhu. Its claws plucked out Mario's eyes, making them profusely bleed. He unleashed an ephemeral yet bone-chilling cry. After the searing pain relented, Mario trudged on. His face was now void of any and all expression. It was because he knew, as well as I did, that he would be torn apart. Brutally and slowly, but it would happen. After a few more seconds, the second demon came. It was identical in appearance to the first. It swooped down with grim black bat wings and did its portion of the damage. After it was said and done, the thing had torn Mario's arms off. Mario stopped dead in his tracks. He sobbed loudly, knowing the worst was yet to come. I felt so sorry for him that the words escaped me. I continued with a morose look. His normal walk slowed to a shuffle. Not a few seconds after that, the final solitary spectre came down. He did his work with one big slash. Mario was now without his legs, and his lump of a body sat there. He sadly wept in utter despair. He knew the end was nearer. He turned to me and choked out this. "I'm sorry you had to witness this. Everything." Those were his last spoken words before World 5, before a gaggle of hell's minions descended and tore apart what remained of him. His entrails were liberally exposed as they regurgitated in their cruel feast. When the dust cleared, a mere shell of him remained. All you could see of his open stomach were his open spine and back muscles. As I had predicted, the blood whistle came to transport him into whatever hellish situation it contemplated would be worse than the last. Consider it sheer luck if I make another post tomorrow. If I do so, it may be my last. I'm starting not to care anymore. I am in the throes of such severe depression. It's all starting to fade away. Everything. School. Friends. Family. It's safe to say this game is single-handedly ruining my life. Such sadness has never become me ever before in my life. My grandfather died when I was young, but that didn't close to equate to what I'm feeling now. It's a direct result of the level that I played, which I'll get into right now. World 6 appeared. Ice was everywhere. This was the one part that correlated to the unaltered version. Nothing else did. The ice was more than frozen, unrealistic blood. Crystallized pieces of crimson droplets bordered the ice blocks. Blood filled in the small droplets of water that were. Of course, there was only a solitary dot on the map. Mario entered it, and I knew that whatever was to pass, it would be tenfold of what had already happened. Pure sable white was the only thing that constituted the backdrop. Blocks of blood-served ice served as a slippery ground. Mario stood along as I controlled him. He appeared happy. Overjoyed might be more accurate. He had nothing to deal with, just him in the open space. 5 minutes passed, then 10. All the way through, Mario was happy. As I let him run through and fly, he had regained the raccoon tail. It seemed like he had all the time in the world. The clock ticked, and all seemed right with the game, making my way through the level. I found out that it had no end. Time, oddly enough, would turn out to be the ultimate enemy. As the 20-minute mark, as a tempest began to pick up, a flurry of snow and wind ensnared Mario, and he now began to curl his tail. His teeth chattered, and his body shook. He soon had to sit down. Mario and I soon figured out how this game planned to snuff him out this time, with ice and time. He sat and tried to heat himself. This, needless to say, was a less than feeble attempt. Nothing but the creepy bass beats from World 5 played. Mario's skin soon began to turn a light blue. Blue. Like the passports. Like the passports on the British passports after Brexit. Just kidding, that was me. It was then that the utmost feeling of sadness had encapsulated me. I couldn't fathom my sympathy. I couldn't begin to describe how bad I felt. This death was absolutely inevitable, and there's nothing I could do to stop it. Just simply watch in shock and dejected awe. Frostbite soon took his hands. 10 minutes after that, World 6 Mario was no more. Just a frozen block of a man, sitting there in the middle of an infinite winter wilderness. After the sadness came feelings of sheer loneliness. I felt abandoned and alone, just like Mario sitting in the middle of that ice field. I felt as if no one would save me down the torture of this game. The blood whistle came down and made a chunk sound as it impaled his chest, taking him to the next level of hell. I closed the emulator window like always and ended this self-subjected torture. I will bring myself to play this game tomorrow, but mark my words, I'll play the last tomorrow, and then this blog will hopefully live on in my memory. So my tribulation can be hidden by the world. Can be seen by the world. Be here. Same time, same place. I'm going to BRB really quick. And then I'll be back. Because again, this is really long. I think, yeah, this is the last part. Besides the aftermath. Okay. Be right back for like 2 seconds. Alright, here we are, the final blog post of Blood Whistle. June 13th, 2012. It is ironic indeed that today is June the 13th. The unlucky number, the unlucky day. Is there any... Okay, there's only the one photo, okay. The unlucky number, the unlucky day. I suppose today isn't completely horrible. Today's the last day I had to play this wretched game. This horrifyingly absurd remake of what used to be a wonderful game will soon be out of my life, along with everything else. With this being the past post, I suppose I can be fully honest about my true intentions ever since I finished World 2. I'm going to take my own life. I'm not, by the way. I'm not. That's the fictional character, not me. This game has caused me such sorrow on an ineffable level that there is no other option. Life will never be the same. Mom and Dad, listen to Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad, I love you. Michael and Kelsey, you guys be good. Listen to Mom and Dad. They have a lot of valuable lessons to teach you. Lessons I learned, but can now never apply again. Now for what you 75,000 followers read this post for, the rest of the game. Hell itself is what the game brought me to. Now, I suppose that was intended to convey World 8. No, not hell. Worse than hell. Bodies were chained up in the background, enduring a myriad of tortures. The pain wasn't strictly felt from injuries, though. The coughs, dying wheezes, and vomiting in the background reeked of pestilence and suffering. Fires emblazoned certain people as well. The flames had an actual burning quality to them, not like regular 8-bit fire. Flesh, eyes, and other internal organs and tissue constituted the walls and the ground. If the hell I'm certainly going to exist, I think it looks something like this. Mario stood before a possessed Princess Toadstool. Her dress was ripped in several places and spattered with blood. Her eyes gleamed red, the flames casting an evilly maniacal allure to her appearance. Bowser and his six sons were tied to wooden poles with terrified looks on their places. Wendy, for some reason, didn't appear in the game. In one hand, Peach brandished a sizable dagger. In the other, the blood whistle. She walked over to Bowser and looked him in the eyes. Technical limitations slightly hindered the interpretation of what events passed, but it was easy enough to understand what was going on. Through his gag, Bowser pleaded with her not to harm him. She brought the knife close to him and he froze up. He was obviously paralyzed with fear. Her mouth got close to his ear and the text rolled along the bottom of the screen. Conveying the text of what played out given the sound limitations, this is what enabled Mario to speak in the past. She whispered. Bowser's innards spilled out into the floor in a great heap. He let out a monstrous 8-bit roar of pain as this happened. Peach laughed, her red eyes reflecting whatever evil had possessed her. The princess proceeded to eviscerate her 6 of the other sons. Mario did nothing but look on in horror as his mortal enemies would be torn apart by a woman he had once loved very much. His face soon contorted into one of loathing. He had come all this way to find out the very girl he'd wished to save had been taken over by an extraterrestrial evil. An evil that would not only haunt Mario, but me as well. The kind of evil that doesn't go away when you turn off the game. The kind of dark force that forces you to your bedchambers and steals your soul. Princess told to pause for a couple seconds, and then came at Mario with the knife. "Hey there, Mario," she said as she toyed with the knife. "They got a little sharp with me, so I pushed them over the edge." I tried to move Mario, but nothing happened. She stood there, afraid of what... He stood there, afraid of what she would do. She brutally slashed open his arms, legs, and abdomen. Shortly, however, the princess produced some salt from her billowing dress and sprinkled it all over him. Why the fuck does she have salt in her dress? That seems a bit over the top. He screamed again, unmoving. "The princess beat you know is long gone. The power of the blood whistle that consumed the girl and made way for me. And speaking of which..." Yeah, hey Shark, I am reading a really shitty creepypasta called Blood Whistle. It's certainly something. "And speaking of which," she continued as she produced the blood whistle, "here it is. Hear its cry." With a mocking kiss on the cheek, she began to play Mario the perverse song of the blood whistle. Its notes rotted away at the last reserve of good in me. He was heaved by an invisible force into the flames. He cried out as they consumed him. Peach chucked the whistle, making it strike him directly in the heart. He continued to wallow in utter anguish as he walked away. As she... Wow, supervillain. Peach just girl bossed too hard. You ever just... She girl bossed too close to the sun. She continued to walk in utter anguish as she walked away, and as she looked, he looked into my eyes and bore me this parting message at the bottom of the screen. "Do not let your life be as painful as mine was. I do not hold reservations against you, as you tried your best to keep me alive." Oh wait, it's Mario. Okay, hold on. "Do not let your life be as painful as mine was. I do not hold reservations against you, as you tried your best to keep me alive. I commend you for that. Goodbye, Bradley, and good luck." The tune of the blood whistle continued to play out of the screen as the screen panned out of Mario's hell. How he knew my name, as Bradley continues to befuddle me. How he could have such depth, such personality. I don't know whether this is a result of the game being as haunted as it truly is, or the fact that someone's could have been captured inside of this ROM. Whatever the reason of this, of everything that's come to pass this abomination, I'm glad I am finally done. I've made all my goodbyes at the beginning of this post. I hope one of you takes this time to save this blog, or at the very least show the world the true hell I put myself through. I sure hope the demented creator of this game isn't festering in the same hell I'm headed for. Goodbye, everyone! Aftermath. Here we go. This blog was the last recorded statement of Bradley before his death. His roommate recorded him 4 hours. His roommate discovered him 4 hours after he made the last post. Bradley committed suicide using a recorder that he plunged through his trachea. And that was Blood Whistle, everyone! Blood Whistle! Yeah, we made it through the entire fucking thing. And we still, mind you, we still have 2 creepypastas left to go. So, with that being said, let me prepare the tweet. All right, are you ready for the fifth story we're reading tonight? All right. Here we go, and it is Psychosis. All right, come listen. I've never read this before, but I'm very excited. So without further ado, let's read the creepypasta known as Psychosis. Alright? Sunday. I'm not sure why I'm writing this down on paper and not at my computer, I guess. I've just noticed some odd things. It's not that I don't trust the computer, I just need to organize my thoughts. I need to get down the details somewhere objective, somewhere I know that that's what I write can't be deleted or changed. That's not what that's happened. It's just everything blurs together here, and the fog of a memory lends a strange cast of things. I'm starting to feel cramped in this small apartment. Maybe that's the problem. I just had to go and choose the cheapest apartment, the only one in the basement. The lack of windows down here makes day and night seem to slip by seamlessly. I haven't been out in a few days because I've been working on this programming project so intensely. I suppose I just wanted to get it done. Hours of sitting and staring at a monitor can make anyone feel strange. I know, but I don't think that's it. I'm not sure when I first started to feel like something was odd. I can't even define what it is. Maybe I just haven't talked to anyone in a while. That's the only thing that crept out of me. Everyone I normally talk to online while I program has been idle, or they're simply not logged in at all. My instant messages go unanswered. The last email I got from anybody was a friend saying he'd talk to me when he got back from the store, and that was yesterday. I'd call with my cell phone, but reception's terrible down here. Yeah, that's it. I just need to call someone, as I'm gonna go outside. Well, that didn't work too well. As a tinge of fear fades, I'm feeling a little ridiculous for being scared at all. I looked in the mirror before I went out, but I didn't have the 2-day stubble I'd grown. I figured I was just going out for a quick cell phone call. I did change my shirt, though, because it was lunchtime, and I guessed that I'd run into at least one person I knew. That didn't end up happening, but I wish it did. When I went out, I opened the door to my small apartment slowly. A small feeling of apprehension had somehow already lodged itself in me for some indefinable reason. I chalked it up to not having spoken to anyone but myself for a day or two. I peered down the dingy gray hallway, made dingier by the fact that it was a basement hallway. On one end, a large metal door led to the building's furnace room. It was locked, of course. 2 dreary soda machines stood by it. I bought a soda from the first day I moved in, but it had a 2-year-old expiration date. I'm fairly sure nobody knows these machines are even down here, or my cheap landlady just doesn't care to get them restocked. I closed the door softly and walked in the other direction, taking care not to make a sound. I have no idea why I chose to do that, but it was fun giving in to the strange impulse to not break the droning hum of the soda machines, at least for a moment. I got to the stairwell and took the stairs up to the building's front door. I looked through the heavy doors. Small square window, and received quite the shock. It was definitely not lunchtime. City gloom hung over the dark street outside, and the traffic lights at the intersection in the distance blinked yellow. Dim clouds, purple and black from the glow of the city, hung overhead. Nothing moved save for the few sidewalk trees that shifted in the wind. I remember shivering, though I wasn't cold. Maybe it was the wind outside. I could vaguely hear it through the heavy metal door, and I knew it was that unique kind of late night wind, the kind that was constant, cold, and quiet, save for the rhythmic music it made as it passed through countless uneven tree leaves. I decided not to go outside. Instead, I lifted my cell phone to the door's little window and checked on the signal meter. The bars filled up the meter, and I smiled. Time to hear someone else's voice, I remember thinking, relieved. It was such a strange thing to be afraid of nothing. I shook my head, laughing at myself silently. I hit speed dial my best friend Amy's number and held the phone up to my ear. It rang once and then stopped. Nothing happened. I had listened to silence for a good 20 seconds, then hung up. I frowned and looked at the signal meter again. Still full. I went to dial her number again, but then my phone rang in my head. Startling me, I put it up to my ear. "Hello?" I asked, immediately fighting down a small shock at all hearing the first spoken voice in days, even if it was my own. I'd gotten used to the droning hum of the building's inner workings, my computer, and the soda machines in the hallway. There was no response to my greeting at first, but then finally a voice came. "Hey," said a clear male voice, obviously of college age like me. "Who's this?" "John," I replied, confused. "Oh, sorry. Wrong number." Then hung up. I lowered the phone slowly and leaned against the thick brick wall of the stairwell. That was strange. Looked at my received call list, but the number was unfamiliar. Before getting on it further, the phone rang loudly, shocking me yet again. This time, I looked at the caller again. It was another unfamiliar number. This time, I held my phone up to my ear, but said nothing. I heard nothing but the general background noise of a phone. Then a familiar voice broke through my tension. "John?" was a single word in Amy's voice. I breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, it's you," I replied. "Who else would it be?" she responded. The number, right. I'm at a party at 7th Street, and my phone died just as you called me. This is someone else's phone, obviously." Thank you, Puffles. Welcome to the stream, by the way. I'm really glad you like my reading voice. Thank you. "Where are you?" she asked. My eyes glanced over the drap, whitewashed cylinder block walls, and the heavy metal door in its small window. "At my building," I sighed. Just feeling cooped up. I didn't realize it was so late." "You should come here," she said, laughing. "Nah, I don't feel like looking for some strange place and by myself in the middle of the night," I said, looking at the windows of the silent and windy street. That secretly scared me just a tiny bit. "I think I'm just gonna go keep working or go to bed." "Nonsense," she replied. "I can come get you. Your building is close to 7th Street. Right? Right?" "How drunk are you?" I asked lightheartedly. "You know where I live." "Oh, of course," she said abruptly. "I guess I can't get there by walking, huh?" "You could if you wanted to waste half an hour," I told her. "Right," she said. "Okay, have to go. Good luck with your work." I lowered the phone once more, looking at the numbers flash as the call ended. Then the droning silence suddenly reasserted itself in my ears. The two strange calls on the eerie street outside just drove home my aloneness in this empty stairwell. Perhaps from having seen too many scary movies, I had the sudden, inexplicable idea that something could look in the door's window and see me. Some sort of horrible entity that hovered on the edge of aloneness, just waiting to creep up on the unsuspecting creeper who had stayed too far from other human beings. I knew the fear was rational, but nobody else was around, so I jumped down the stairs, ran down the hallway into my room, and closed the door as swiftly as I could while still staying silent. Like I said, I still feel a little ridiculous for being scared of nothing, and the fear had already faded. Writing this down helps a lot. It makes me realize that nothing is wrong. It filters out half-formed thoughts and fears and leaves only cold, hard facts. It's late. I got a call from a wrong number, and Amy's phone died, so she called me back with another number. Nothing strange is happening. Still, there was something a little off about that conversation. I know it could have been the alcohol she'd had, or was it even that was it even her that seemed off to me? Or was it... Yes, that was it. I didn't realize until this morning, writing these things down. I knew writing things down would help, but she said she was at a party, but I only heard silence in the background. Of course, that doesn't mean anything in particular. She could have just gone outside to make the call. No, that couldn't be either. I didn't hear the wind. I need to see if the wind is still blowing. Monday. I forgot to finish writing last night. I'm not sure what I expected to see when I ran up the stairwell and looked out the heavy metal door's window. I'm feeling ridiculous. Last night's fear seems hazy and unreasonable to me now, but I can't wait to go out into the sunlight. I'm gonna finally check my email, shave, shower, and finally get out of here. Wait. I think I heard something. It was thunder. That whole sunlight and fresh air thing didn't happen. I went up to the stairwell and up to the stairs only to find disappointment. The heavy metal door's little window only showed only flowing water as torrential rain slammed against it. Only a very dim, gloomy light filtered in through rain. But at least I knew it was daytime, even if it was a gray, sickly, wet day. I tried looking out the window and waiting for lightning to illuminate the gloom, but the rain was too heavy, and I couldn't make out anything more than vague, weird shapes moving at odd angles of the window, the waves washing through the window. Disappointed, I turned around, but I didn't want to go back into my room. Instead, I wandered back up the stairs, past the first floor and the second. The stairs ended at the third floor, the highest floor in the building. I looked through the glass that ran up the outer wall of the stairwell, but it was that warped, thick kind that scatters the light. Not that there was much to see through the rain to begin with. I opened the stairwell door and wandered down the hallway. The 10 or so thick wooden doors, painted blue a long time ago, were all closed. I listened as I walked, but it was the middle of the day, so I wasn't surprised that I heard nothing but the rain outside. As I stood there in the dim hallway listening to the rain, I had this strange fleeting impression that the doors were standing like silent granite monoliths erected by some ancient forgotten civilization for some unfathomable guardian purpose. Lightning flashed, and I could have sworn that for just a moment the old grainy blue wood looked just like rough stone. I laughed at myself for letting my imagination get the best of me, but then it occurred to me that the dim glowing and lighting must have meant there was a window somewhere in the hallway. A vague memory surfaced, and then I suddenly realized that the third floor had an alcove, an inset window hallway to the door's hallway. Excited to look out into the rain and possibly see another human being, I quietly walked over into the alcove, finding the large, thin glass window. Rain washed it, as with the front door's window, but I could see this one. I reached a head out to slide it open, but hesitated. I had the strangest feeling that if I opened that window, I would see something absolutely horrifying on the other side. Everything's been so hot lately. So I came up with a plan, and I came back here to get what I needed. I don't seriously think anything will come of it, but I'm bored, it's raining, and it's going stir crazy. I came back to get my webcam. The cord isn't long to reach the third floor any means, so instead I'm going to hide it between the two soda machines in the dark end of my basement hallway, run the wire along the wall and under my door, and put black duct tape over the wire to blend it in with the black plastic strip that runs over the base of the hallway's walls. I know this is silly, but I don't have anything better to do. Well, nothing happened. I propped open the hallway to stairwell door, steeled myself, then flung the heavy front door wide open, and ran the hell down to my stairs to my room and slammed the door. I watched the webcam on my computer inherently, seeing the hallway outside my door and most of the stairwell. I'm watching it right now, and I don't see anything interesting. I just wish the camera's position was different, so that I could see out the front door. Oh, hey! Somebody's online! I got out an older, less functional webcam I had in my closet to video chat my friend online. I couldn't really explain to him why I wanted to video chat, but it felt good to see another person's face. couldn't talk very long, and we didn't talk about anything meaningful, but I felt much better. My strange fear had almost passed. I would feel completely better, but there was something odd about our conversation. I know I've said that everything has seemed odd, but still, he was very vague in his responses. I can't recall one specific thing he said. No particular name, place, or event. But he did ask for an email to keep in touch. Wait a sec. Hold on. I just got an email. Hold on. About to go out. I just got an email from Amy that asked me to meet her for dinner at the place we usually go to. I do love pizza, and I've just been eating random food from my poorly stocked fridge for days, so I can't wait. Again, I'm feeling ridiculous about this odd last couple of days I've been having. I should destroy this email back. Oh, another email. Oh my god. Oh my god. I almost left the email and opened the door. I almost opened the door, but I read the email first. It was from a friend I hadn't heard from a long time, and it was sent to a huge number of emails that must have been every person he'd saved in his address list. It had no subject, and it said simply, "See with your own eyes. Don't trust him. They." What the hell is that supposed to mean? The words shock me, and I just keep going over and over them. Is it a desperate email just sent as something happened? The words are obviously cut off without finishing. On any other day, I would have dismissed this as spam from a computer virus or something, but the words, "seen with your own eyes." I couldn't help but read over this journal and think back on the last few days and realize I have not seen another person with my own eyes or talked to another person face to face. The webcam conversation with my friend was so strange, so vague, so eerie. Now that I think about it, was it eerie? Or is the fear just clouding my memory? My mind toys with the progression of the events I've written here, pointing out that I have not been presented with one single fact that I did not specifically give out unsuspectingly. The random wrong number that got my name and the subsequent strange return call from Amy, the friend that asked my email address, I messaged him first when I saw him online, and then I got an email a few minutes later after the conversation. Oh my god, that phone call of Amy! I said it was within half an hour's walk of 7th Street. They know I'm near there. What are they trying to find me? Where is everyone else? Why haven't I heard anyone or heard or seen anyone else in days? No. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I need to calm down. This madness needs to end. I don't know what to think. I ran about my apartment furiously, holding up my cell phone to every corner to see if it got a signal with the heavy walls. Finally, in the tiny bathroom, near one ceiling corner, I got a single bar. Holding my phone there, I sent a message to every number on my list. Not wanting to betray anyone anything about my unfounded fears, I simply sent, "You seen anyone face-to-face lately?" At that point, I just wanted any reply back. I didn't care what the reply was or if I embarrassed myself. I just wanted to call someone a few times, but I couldn't get my head up high enough, and if I brought the cell phone even an inch, it lost signal. Then I remembered my computer, and I rushed over to it, instant messaging everyone online. Most were idle or away from their computer. Nobody responded. My messages got even more frantic, and I started telling people where I was and to stop by in person for a host of barely passable reasons. I didn't care about anything at this point. I just needed to see another person. I also go through my apartment looking for something I might have missed, some way to contact another human being without opening the doors. I know it's crazy. I know it's unfounded, but what if? What if? I just need to be sure. I taped the phone to the ceiling in case. Tuesday. The phone rang! Exhausted from last night's rampage, I must have fallen asleep. I woke up to the phone ringing, went into the bathroom and stood in the toilet and flipped open the phone to the ceiling. It was Amy, and I feel so much better. She was really worried about me, and apparently she'd been trying to contact me over the last time I talked to her. She's coming over, yes, she's coming over now, and yes, she knows where I am without me telling her. I feel so embarrassed. I am definitely throwing this journal away before anyone sees it. I don't even know why I'm writing it in it now. Maybe it's just because the only communication I've had at all since... It's the only communication I've had at all since God knows when. I look like hell, too. I looked in the mirror before I came here. My eyes are sunken, my stubble is thicker, and I just look generally unhealthy. My apartment is trashed, but I'm not going to clean it up. I think I need someone else to see what I've been through. These last few days have not been normal, and I am not one to imagine things. I know I have been the victim of extreme probability. I probably missed seeing another person a dozen times. I just happened to go out when it was late at night or the middle of the day when everyone was gone. Everything's perfectly fine. I know this now. Plus, I found something in the closet that has helped me tremendously. A television. I set it up just before I wrote this, and it's on in the background. Television has always been an escape for me, and it reminds me that there's a world beyond these dingy brick walls. I'm glad Amy's the only one that responded to me after last night's frantic pestering of everyone I could contact. She's been my best friend for years. She doesn't know it, but I could count the day I met her as among one of the few moments of true happiness in my life. I remember that warm summer day fondly. It seems a different reality than this dark, rainy, lonely place. I feel like I spent days in that playground, much too old to play, just talking with her and hanging around doing nothing at all. It still feels like I can go back to that moment sometimes, and it reminds me that the place is not all that there is. Finally, finally, a knock at the door. I thought it was odd. I couldn't see it through the cameras I hid in between the two soda machines. I figured it was bad positioning. Like when I couldn't see out of the front door, I should have known. I should have known! After the knock, I yelled at the door joking that I had a camera between the soda machines because I was embarrassed myself that I'd taken this paranoia so far. After I did that, I saw the image walk over to the camera and look down at it. She smiled and waved. "Hey," she said to the camera brightly, giving it a wry look. "It's weird. I've had a weird few days." "Must have," she replied. "Open the door, John." I hesitated. How could I be sure? "Okay, hey, humor me a second here," I said through the mic. "Tell me one thing about us just to prove me that you're you." Alright," she said slowly. "We met randomly at a playground when we were both way too old to be there." I sighed deeply, and as reality returned, and fear faded. God, I had been so ridiculous. Of course it was Amy. That day wasn't anywhere in the world except in my memory. I never even mentioned it to anyone, not out of embarrassment, but out of a strange, secret nostalgia and a longing for those days to return. If there was some unknown voice at work trying to trick me as I'd feared, there was no way they could know about that day. Alright, I'll explain everything. I ran to my small bathroom and fixed my hair as best as I could. I looked like hell, but she would understand. Snickering my own unbelieving behavior and the mess I made out of place, I walked the door. I put my hand on the doorknob and gave the mess one last look. So ridiculous, I thought. My eyes traced over the half-eaten food lying on the ground, the overflowing trash bin, and the bed I had tipped over the side looking for God knows what. I almost turned the door and opened it, but my eyes fell on one last thing. The old webcam. The one I'd used for that eerily vacant chat with my friend. Its single black spear laid haphazardly ties at the side. Its lens pointed at the table to where this journal lay. An overwhelming terror took me as I realized that something could see through that camera. It would have seen what I had wrote about that day. I asked her for any one thing about us, and then she chose the only thing in the world that I thought they did or that they did not know. But it did. It did know. It could have been watching me the whole time. I didn't open the door. I screamed in uncontrollable terror. I stomped on that old webcam on the floor. The door shook, and the doorknob tried to turn, but I didn't hear Amy's voice at the door. Was the basement door made to keep out drafts too thick, or was Amy not outside? What could have been trying to get in, if not her? What the hell is out there? I saw her on my computer through the camera outside. I saw her on the speakers through the camera outside. But was it real? How could I know? She's gone now. I screamed and shouted for help. I piled everything in my apartment through the front door. Against the front door. Friday. At least I think it was Friday. I broke everything electronic. Broke everything electronic. Smashed my computer to pieces. Every single thing on there that could have been programmed by network access, or worse, altered. I'm a programmer, I know. Every little piece of information I gave out since it started, my name, my email, my location, none of that came back from outside until I gave it out. I have been going over and over about what I wrote. I've been pacing back and forth, alternating between stark terror and overpowering disbelief. Sometimes I'm absolutely certain some phantom entity is dead set on the simple goal of getting me to go outside. Back to the beginning, with the phone call from Amy, she was effectively asking me to go to the door and not go outside. I keep running it through my head. One point of view says I acted like a madman, and that all of this is just the extreme convergence of probability. Never going outside at the right times by pure luck. Never seeing another person by pure chance. Getting a random nonsense email from some computer virus at just the right time. The other point of view says that the extreme convergence of probability is the reason that whatever's out there hasn't gotten me already. I keep thinking, I've never opened the window on the third floor. I've never opened the front door until that incredibly stupid stunt with the hidden camera, after which I went straight to my room and slammed the door. I haven't opened my own solid door since I flung open the front door at the building. Whatever's out there, if anything's out there, never made an appearance in the building before I opened the front door. Maybe the reason it wasn't in the building was that it was elsewhere getting someone else, and then it waited until I betrayed my existence by trying to call Amy. The call which didn't work until they called me and asked me my name. Terror literally overwhelms me every time I try to fit pieces of this nightmare together. That email, sure to cut off. Was it from someone trying to get word out? Some friendly voice desperately trying to warn me before it came? Seen with my own eyes, I don't trust them. Exactly what I have been suspicious of. It could have masterful control of all things electronic, practicing its insidious deception to trick me from coming outside. Why couldn't it get in? It knocked on the door. It must have had some solid presence. The door... The image of the stores in the upper hallway as guardian monoliths flashes back in my mind every time I trace this path of thoughts. If there is some phantom entity trying to get me to go outside, maybe it can't get through the doors. I keep thinking back over all the books I've read or the movies I've seen, trying to generate some sort of explanation for this. doors have always been such an intense foci of human imagination. Always seen as wards of or portals of special importance. Perhaps the door is just too thick. I know I couldn't bash through any of the doors in this building, let alone the heavy basement ones. Aside from that, the real question is, why does it even want me? If it just wanted to kill me, it could do it in any other ways, including just waiting until I starve to death. What if it doesn't want to kill me? What if it has some sort of far more horrific fate in store for me? God, what can I do to escape this nightmare? A knock on the door. I told the people on the other side of the door I need a minute to think and I'll come out. I'm really just writing this down so I can figure out what to do. At least this time I hear their voices. My paranoia, and yes, I recognize I'm being paranoid, has me thinking all sorts of ways that their voices can be faked electronically. There can be nothing but speakers outside simulating human voices. Did it really take them 3 days to come talk to me? And he was supposedly out there along with 2 policemen and a psychiatrist. Maybe it took them 3 days to think of what to say to me. If it's the psychiatrist's claim, I could be pretty convincing. If I decided to think, and this has all been some sort of crazy misunderstanding, and not some entity trying to trick me into opening the door. The psychiatrist had an older voice, authoritarian but still caring. I liked it. I'm desperate to just see someone with my own eyes. He said I have something called Psychosis, and I'm just one of a nationwide epidemic of thousands of people getting breakdowns triggered by a suggestive email that, quote, got through somehow. I swear he said got through somehow. I think he means spread through the country inexplicably, but I'm still suspicious that the entity slipped up and revealed something. He said I'm a wave of emergent behavior, that a lot of other people are having the same problem with the same fears even though we've never communicated. That nearly explains the strange email I got with eyes that I got. I didn't get the original triggering email. I got a descendant of it. My friend could have broken down too and tried to warn everyone he knew against his paranoid fears. That's how the problem spreads, the psychiatrist claims. I could have spread it too with my text and instant messages online to everyone I know. One of those people might be melting down right now after being triggered by something that I sent them. Something that I might interpret in any way they want. Something like a text saying they haven't seen anyone face to face lately. The psychiatrist said he didn't want to lose another one. That people like me are intelligent. That's our downfall. We draw connections so well that we draw them even when they shouldn't be there. He said it's easy to get caught up in paranoia in our fast-paced world, a constantly changing place, where more and more of our interaction is simulated. You know what? I have to give him one thing. It's a great explanation. It nearly explains everything. In fact, but I have every reason to shake off this nightmarish fear that something or consciousness is being out there wants me to open the door so it can capture me for some horrible fate worse than death. It would be foolish, after hearing that explanation, to stay in here until I starve to death, just to spite the reality that might have gotten everyone else. It would be foolish to think that, after hearing that explanation, I might be one of the last people left alive in an empty world, hiding in my secure basement room, thinking some unthinkable deceptive spiting some unthinkable deceptive entity just by refusing to be captured. It's a perfect explanation for every single little strange thing I've seen or heard, and I have every reason in the world to just let all my fears go and open the door. That's not exactly why I'm not going to. That's exactly why I'm not going to. How can I be so sure? How can I know what's real and what's deception? All these damn things with their wires and their signals that originate for some unseen origin, they're not real. I can't be sure. Signals through a camera, faked videos, deceptive phone calls, emails, even the television lying broken on the floor. How can I possibly know it's real? It's just signals. Light. Waves! The door! It's bashing on the door! It's trying to get in! What insane mechanical contrivance could it be using to stimulate the sound of men attacking the heavy wood so well? At least I'll finally see it with my own eyes. There's nothing left in here for me to deceive it with. I've ripped apart everything else. It can't deceive my eyes, can it? See with your own eyes, don't trust them. Hey, wait. Was that desperate message telling me to trust my eyes? Or warning me about my eyes too? Oh my god. What's the difference between a camera and my eyes? They both turn light into electrical signals. They're the same. I can't be deceived. I have to be sure. I have to be sure. Date unknown. I calmly asked for a paper and a pen, day in and day out, until they finally gave them to me. Not that it matters. What are they gonna do? Poke my eyes out? The bandages feel like part of me now. The pain is gone. I figure this will be the last chance, or my last chance is to write legibly, as without my sight to correct mistakes, my hands will slowly forget the motions involved. This is a sort of self-indulgence, this writing. It's a relic of another time, because I'm certain everyone left in the world is dead, or something far worse. I sit against this padded wall day in and day out. The entity brings me food and water. It masks itself as a kind nurse, as an unsympathetic doctor. I think it knows my hearing has sharpened considerably now that I live in darkness. It fakes conversations in the hallways, and the off chance it might overhear. One of the nurses talks about having a baby soon. One of the doctors lost his wife in a car accident. None of it matters. None of it is real. None of it gets to me. Not like she does. That's the worst part. The part I almost can't handle. The thing comes to me masquerading as Amy. Its recreation is perfect. It sounds like Amy. Feels exactly like her. It even produces a reasonable facsimile of Teal's. And it makes me feel in its lifelike cheeks. It told me that she loved me. That she had always loved me. That it didn't understand why I did this. That we could still have a life together. If only I would stop existing that I was being deceived. It wanted me to believe... No. It needed me to believe that she was real. I almost fell for it. I really did. I doubted myself. For the longest time. In the end, though, it was all too perfect. Too flawless. Too real. The false Amy used to come every day, then every week, and then finally stopped coming altogether. But I don't think the entity will give up. I think the waiting game is just another one of its gambits. I will resist it for the rest of my life if I have to. I don't know what happened to the rest of the world, but I do know this thing needs me to fall for its deceptions. If it needs that, then maybe, just maybe, I'm a thorn in its agenda. Maybe Amy is still alive out there somewhere. Kept alive only by my will to resist the deceiver. I held on to that hope, rocking back and forth in my cell to pass the time. I will never give in. I will never break. I am a hero. The doctor read the paper the patient had scribbled on. It was barely readable, written in only the shaky script of a man who cannot see. He wanted to smile in the man's steadfast resolve, reminder of the human will to survive, but he knew that the patient was completely delusional. After all, a sane man would have fallen for the deception a long time ago. The doctor wanted to smile. He wanted to whisper words of encouragement to the delusional man. He wanted to scream, but the nerve filaments wrapped around his head and into his eyes made him do otherwise. His body walked into the cell like a puppet and told the patient once more that he was wrong, that there was nobody trying to deceive him. And that is Psychosis. So, I'm going to be right back for one last time, one last BRB. One last BRB, and then we'll be back with our last creepypasta of the night. Don't go anywhere. We will be back. Alright. Alright, I have one last story. This one's quite bad. It's so bad it's good. And it's really interesting, okay? You ready for the story, the final story of the night? Well, here we go. That is right. I'll be reading... Hold on. I will be reading Sonic.EXE Round 2. This is the official sequel to Sonic.EXE, written by the same person that wrote the original story, okay? This is the official sequel. Hey, Let's Spect, how you doing? This is the official sequel to Sonic.EXE. Alright? It is incredibly long and it's very bad. Here we go. Sonic.exe Round 2. Note, this is an official sequel to Sonic.exe. It's been more than a year now since the Sonic.exe murders began to happen, and the police department still doesn't know who's doing it or why it's happening. The first murders looked as though the killer did a sloppy job, but over time the killings, or at least some of the guys back at the station think it's just killings, have gotten more elaborate. Bodies have started to look like the victims just dropped dead or that there were disappearances. One thing is certain. All victims seem to have a burned/destroyed computer with some data from a game called Sonic.exe. None of us have found any connections or clues that could help us learn why all this was happening. Well, no, that's not true. There was one cop who may have uncovered more about the murders than we did. His name was Derek Green, a really good detective, mainly because he'd always teamed up with his sister, Chelsea. They were assigned to investigate the Sonic.exe murders. I should know, because I was their boss at the time. They're both dead. Sometimes I wonder if I should have helped them. I don't know. Anyway, the boys have found Derek's diary when we investigated his apartment. He hadn't been in his home for weeks. The diary recorded all of what Derek found in his investigation. My God, did he write down a lot. Especially after the chief of police took him off the case. And a lot of what he wrote down seems to connect a lot about what's going on with the murders. At least I hope he was onto something. Here's what he wrote. 7:30 p.m., September 15th, 2011. Happy birthday to me! I got this diary as a gift from my sister Chelsea. This will certainly come in handy when we do another investigation. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. My name's Derek Green. I'm a detective. Well, I'm not really, RLY, good at this. Hopefully I'll get better as I write in this. Anyway, I'll let you know if anything else happens. 11:22 a.m., October 24th, 2011. Wow, pretty interesting way to start off a case on Halloween. Our boss told us there's a stiff in one of the local suburbs and wants us to check it out. Wow, been a while since me and Chelsea tackled a murder case. This might be interesting. We're in the truck right now and we're heading for the house. 2:30 p.m. Jesus, whatever happened to this house I was not expecting. The victim looks like something ripped this mouth open and tried to yank something out from the inside. I've seen a lot of messed up ways to kill a person, but this is rather strange. I don't think any normal person would do this. Yeah, no shit, they're not normal. The cop present at the crime scene told us the kid was like this for 2 days and his parents just discovered his body and called us in the morning. What's really, RLY, weird about this is that there's a badly made cut on his chest that's shaped like the number 1. Chelsea told me she found a possible clue to the murder. She showed us the victim owned a computer. The computer was badly burnt and wrecked. Chelsea has a theory to this. Either the killer destroyed the computer or the victim did it himself. Either way, we sent it to the station for research. 6:10 p.m. Alright, the guys in the lab have their report. They told us the computer worked. The computer's wrecked from the inside and out. And by that everything was on the computer was completely deleted by the same time the computer got destroyed. The only thing that seems to still be in the computer is some data from a computer game called Sonic.EXE. 4:30 p.m., November 11th, 2011. A couple more murders these last few weeks, all the same killing methods. Dead bodies, torn open mouths, destroyed computers. As the killings are looking less messy, as if the killer's being more careful with tearing out whatever he's tearing out from inside these victims' bodies. There's also cuts on the victim's chest that seem to be in numerical order. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The killer seems to be keeping count of all the people he's killing. 8:30 p.m. Had dinner. Both me and Chelsea are brainstorming what's going on. It's really strange. The fact that the computers are getting destroyed every time there's a murder victim, and we find there's some old data from the same computer game. Sonic.EXE. That name reminds me of all the times me and Chelsea played some of her old Sonic the Hedgehog video games. I remember when we used to like to play Sonic Heroes. She always liked me playing as Rouge the Bat, and I always liked playing as Vector. But it's weird. What is a Sonic game, a possibly fan-made one at that, got to do with all these killings? 2:45 p.m., December 2nd, 2011. Another murder. Big surprise here. But now me and Chelsea agree that all the murders are connected with a video game. Maybe the killer made it his calling card? Steve told us not to worry so much about a simple video game and just stick with what's going on with the murders. 6:30 p.m. Autopsy came back in again. The doctors told us that aside from the wounds from the chest and the mouth, the victims don't seem to show any signs of a murder or struggle. In fact, as baffling as it seems, the victims all appear to be in perfect health. What? All appear to be in perfect health. Apart from the fact that they're quote-unquote dead. I air-checked the word dead because that's where the report came out really disturbing. The doctors stated they came out they're all in what appears to be in a persistent vegetative state. Meaning that these people are still, in fact, alive, their brains and hearts still working, but they're all in an empty, dead-like state. It's as if something robbed them of their minds or a sense of self. Chelsea stated it's probably one of the freakiest things she's seen in her days as my partner. And I don't blame her. Who would be capable of actually stealing people's senses of self? It's like the devil is handpicking innocent people and robbing them of their souls for eternal damnation. Spoiler. 5:42 p.m., December 14th, 2011. Chelsea's been acting very strange lately. She seems quieter at work, and whenever we go home, she goes back into her room. I'm guessing she's just as determined to learn more about this case as I am. If she's onto something, I hope she lets me know first before we make it official. After all, we are a team. 2 p.m., December 19th, 2011. Chelsea didn't go to work with me, said that he wasn't feeling well. Starting to get a little worried for her. Ever since we took this case, she's been acting rather odd. I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting. Boss told me to not worry about it and maybe just look into what she was researching on. I might do that. Also, several news about people worshipping the sky recently. Calls himself X. Oh my god, just right at this moment, I get a text message. Right at this moment, I get a text message with some fucking weird link to like 20 people. Spam bot for sure. Alright, how the fuck do I... Hold on. Okay. If you know... I don't know, maybe... I also have several news about people worshiping the sky recently. Calls himself X. I swear the things kids will be into nowadays. 9:30 p.m. December 14th, 2011. Almost time for Christmas, though I don't know if I should celebrate. Chelsea's been shut up in her room almost every day. Not responding to me. If she's alright, I hope she's alright. Anyways, I've been looking at Chelsea's work and she might have found something. Apparently the killer must be going after anyone who plays the Sonic.EXE game. And once they play the game, the killer tracks them down, kills them, and keeps count by carving the numbers into their chest. But what about the fact that almost every victim looks like as though they had their soul sucked right out of them? Wait a minute, I just remembered something. A few days ago, Chelsea came back from the store and went back into her room. She said she found a new game. Oh my god, Chelsea! 12:32 a.m. Writing is a bit sloppy and there are tears sparked here and there. Chelsea is dead. She found the game. Oh my god, why? I called the guys back at the station to help me move Chelsea. Oh god, why her? Did the killer find out and try to cover his tracks? No, it doesn't look like anything was taken and destroyed, well, except for the computer, and the game's still here. I wanted to keep it to find out why this had happened, but the chief demanded I hand it over to him. The way he asked for it is really odd. It's as if he doesn't want me to do anything to this game disc. The funeral of my sister will be prepared in a few days. I can't believe that Chelsea, my own sister, is gone. When I find out who killed her, I want to make sure that he pays dearly. "4:50 p.m., December 28th, 2011. Came back from the funeral. God, am I a mess. Thankfully, Boss was there for me. He's the only person who ever supported me in Chelsea. I'm glad he's on my side about this case. A woman who came to me in the funeral party. Her name is Shannon Goldman. She was supposedly representative for the Cult of X, as she called it. She told me she was sorry for my loss and pulled out some religious crap about X wishing me a happier year. Seriously, who is this X guy anyway? She told me that soon X will make things better for the whole world, which pretty much ended the conversation right there. That woman is crazy. Anyways, more news about the Cult of X doing crazy stuff. Well, whoever this X guy is he's making as much impact as the public on as the killer is. 2:20 p.m., January 2nd, 2022. Or not 2022, 10 years in the future. Another murder, Jesus. This guy never has a break with killing. This is like the 22nd killing. He's drinking now. He's having drinking now. That's why you hear those sounds. This is like the 22nd killing. What is he trying to gain from killing all these people? And how the hell is he getting away with it so goddamn easy? I gotta know what it is Chelsea was finding. Maybe she was onto something. I just know it. Maybe if you're looking around in our house, I might find a clue. 5:30 p.m. Well, whatever Chelsea found. She left a lot of good clues for me. The computer is entirely broken. In fact, it seems like it only got beat up a few times. But still surprisingly working like new. I'm actually surprised I didn't see it like this that night. But again, if you lost something you love, you would lose sight of very important details surrounding you. Anyways, I checked the computer and there's an icon on the Sonic.EXE game on her desktop. My god, how did Chelsea even get this? I guess it doesn't really matter. Hey, Sithy Buns! Thank you so much for the sub, man! I really appreciate it. Thank you so much! Lunch on Wednesday? Hell yeah. Send me the details and where we're going and we can talk about it. Apparently, Chelsea was terrified of this game. Something from this game scared the crap out of her. In fact, according to what she wrote down, she made it seem like this game is cursed or something. But that can't be the case. There's no way a computer game could harm anyone, right? 7:12 a.m., January 3rd, 2012. Alright, changed their mind. Maybe there is something spooky about this game after all. Last night I had a dream. No, a nightmare more like. I remember it well. I was trapped in darkness. All was quiet except someone was laughing and talking to me. I was having visions of Sonic the Hedgehog smiling and appearing all around me as he talked to me. He told me to play the game over and over again, each time sounding more impatient. When he got to my face and yelled, "Play it!" that's when I woke up with a fright. Why would Sonic want me to play a game that possibly killed my sister? Wait. 3:30 p.m. Another murder, number 24. The cult of X seem to be pestering the public more and more. What's their deal? Don't they realize there is a killer on the loose? Wait a minute. What if this X weirdo is the killer? It would make sense. Ever since these murders started, the cult has been hanging around and recruiting more and more people. And this X character they're worshipping. Who is it? Who is he? Why is this cult even started after several murders have taken place? I looked around Chelsea's notes again and they seemed to grieve me. Apparently X has something to do with the Sonic.EXE game. Did he make the game? Did he somehow get a hold of it and thought, hey, if I kill people with this game, people will like me? If what X is doing is real, then something is seriously wrong here. 6:30 p.m. Unbelievable! The chief of police came over to my apartment a while ago and told me the investigation may be too much for me to handle and said it was off the case. What the hell? I had practically found a lot of evidence for it and he practically told me I shouldn't continue on. He said that Chelsea wouldn't have wanted me to quit with this after this had happened. Bullshit. Whatever, I'm not gonna let some fathead stop me from solving the case. I'm gonna find out who X really is, why he's doing all this, and I'm gonna turn him in. 5 p.m. February 8th, 2012. More murders are up to 28 now. The boss contacts me about it every while and again. And then behind the chief's back, he told me that whoever's causing these murders is one smart son of a bitch. Hold on. I can't really blame him as much as I hate to admit it. I have to give X credit for being able to kill 28 people so far, but he's not going to get away with it. Yeah, anyway, I looked over Chelsea's notes again. It's whatever she wrote down before she got attacked was very odd. Nonsensical stuff about a Sonic plushie always watching her, spying on her. I never saw a Sonic doll in the apartment, and again, I never questioned my sister's sanity. She was always the smart one in things, and it just pains me to realize how broken she was before she died. I didn't tell the boss about X or Chelsea's notes. I know he won't believe me. Nobody will. Guess if you have to solve a case, you have to solve it yourself. 8:30 p.m. Someone sent a friend request to my Skype. He calls himself Cole. He said that he can help me with this case, but only if I can trust him. I rarely, or why, don't have a choice. I'm willing to do anything to put an end to this. Anyway, Cole told me that I first have to get files of all the victims in the Sonic.EXE murders. That's what the news is starting to call them now that the police has confirmed the old game data in the computers as evidence. Later on tonight, I'm gonna pay the station a little visit. 11:45 p.m. Jesus, what a close call. I just made it back from the station. I had to grab all the files and had a run-in with the chief. He asked what I was doing back on the station. I lied and I told him how to pick up a few things from my office and decided to take some time off. Thankfully, he believed me, but it's strange. The way he talked to me sounded like he didn't believe me in the slightest. Anyway, I got all the files that Cole had asked. I told Cole that all the victims had the same occurrences. All of them were in a dead-like state, as if their souls were taken out, and they were all numbered. And that each computer the victims were somehow destroyed and had Sonic.EXE inside the hard drives. Cole said there's a reason why victims had Sonic.EXE in their computers, and boy, did I not like the answer. The cult of X is involved. The numbers after someone gets killed steals the game disc the victim had at the time and hides away for a while. And hides it away for a while until it shows up later at a random place to easily obtain it. These random locations could be anything. A game store, pawn shop, the black market, eBay, Craigslist, random yet seemingly harmless deliveries, anywhere that involves buying stuff. That way, when the next victim buys it, or finds it, he or she becomes the new owner of the Sonic.EXE game until X comes to steal them, and then a number of the cult members comes to steal away the game disc again, and thus the cycle begins anew. I asked Cole why the cult is even doing this, and he told me that X, the bastard, is clearly some sort of holy figure to the cult, and they will do whatever it takes to be on his good side. What do they see in X anyhow? Why do they like him so much that they're willing to become accomplices to the murder? Or better yet, what power does X have to strike so much terror into people that do whatever he says? 3:30 p.m. March 1st, 2012. I couldn't hold myself in any longer. I had to know what Chelsea found in that game, so I played it. It started off pretty basic with the classic Sonic.EXE, with the classic Sonic the Hedgehog title screen, until I started it. Sonic, in his eyes had gone black and there were red glowing dots staring at me. Anyways, when I got in the character selection screen, yes, this game apparently has one, I was shown the character lineup. Shadow, Sally, and Rouge. Rouge was Chelsea's favorite character. I chose not to play as her out of respect for Chelsea and chose Shadow. That laugh. It sounded just like the laugh Sonic had made in the dream I had. The game started out with a level title called Let's Play, and I was shown Shadow standing in what appears to be a hallway of mirrors, with a faint echoing of a piano and playing a calm melody in the distance. I had Shadow walk down the hall, and every time he walked past a mirror, I was introduced to a more twisted, messed up version of himself in the mirror. The reflections' red markings were oozing red as if he was bleeding, and his eyes were bloodshot to the point where they were red, bleeding and pulsating, and he possibly had the most psychotic grin on his face. It was like I was looking at a walking fountain of blood. I had Shadow walk past the last mirror and the music stopped. Shadow was now walking down an empty, quiet hallway. I had this growing sense of dread in my stomach. Then Shadow stopped at one more mirror. He stopped right at it, showing his weird, bleeding reflection. And then that laugh came again, and I saw the real Shadow was slowly transforming into his reflection, bleeding and smiling. The hell kind of game is this? Then Sonic appeared. With those black and red eyes, red tears coming down his face. He smiled as he looked at Shadow, and the screen went black and then came a message on the screen. It's not the outside that's important. It's who you are on the inside that really intrigues me. When it came back to that level, Shadow was sitting on the floor, cradling in a half-fetal position like a child, just grinning that freaky grin. Then Sonic smiled, looked at me, and then lunged at Shadow, the screen going black with a loud, pixelated screeching noise. I still feel as if I could still hear the ringing in my ears. That laugh came again, and another message. You're learning more about this better than anyone, aren't you, Derek? What the fuck? How does this game know me? Doesn't make any sense. I ran back to the main menu, and I saw that Shadow was now in one of the TV screens, looking as he did earlier, looking rather mindlessly happy. I turned the game off. My head hurts from all this. What was this what Chelsea found? A haunted computer game? And now some guy is using this as an excuse to kill people, just to get a cult? I just don't get it. Why is all this happening? Who is X? Who is X? Who is X? Sonic? 4:30 p.m. March 2nd, 2012. I've come to the conclusion. It's obvious that X is no ordinary human being. In fact, I no longer even think he's human. Cole filled me in about him. X is really called Sonic.EXE, named after the game that's been causing all this trouble. Cole Skyped me recently that Sonic.EXE has been around long before the game did. I asked him what X was exactly, and his answer unnerved me. Sonic.EXE is a monster. No, not the monsters you see in horror films or video games. He is a real monster. Cole told me that X is apparently a supernatural being from another dimension. How fucking crazy is that? But it's true. It has to be. X has this power to control all of reality in his realm, and he is unable to do the same in our world because he can't enter it. So some time ago, someone made a game disc that would serve as a window between X's world and ours. Anyone who plays it gets a front row seat to what X's dimension looks like, and it is hell. Not literally hell, but pretty freaking close. Over time, after someone plays X's game, X sends a plushie of Sonic to act as a spy for him. Then, when time is right, X is able to open the window for a short time and pull people into his world where they are trapped forever. This is how he's able to kill people so easily without anyone noticing. He comes out of the computer, pulls the soul out of the person's body, and then goes back into the computer to retreat into his dimension. There, he can make the soul he captured his slave for all of eternity. If I was told this long ago, I would not have believed it. But now I'm straight up convinced. Everything Cole has told me is the truth so far, and now I'm writing this down. I'm writing down all that he's telling me, just in case any of this information becomes useful. 6:30 p.m. Cole told me that he's got to go. He'll get in trouble if he gets caught talking to me, but says he'll Skype me again soon. And until then, I'm asked to write down the names of any potential victims this time. I'm also asked to keep an eye out. The cult is getting suspicious. 4:30 p.m., April 22nd, 2012. 29th murder and no word from Cole yet. I nearly escaped from a few members of the cult and anybody that might be involved. I can't trust anyone now. I need to stay in my apartment more often so no one finds me. The person killed this time was a middle-aged guy named Paul. He was very paranoid of the outside world, and anything could traumatize the poor guy. Apparently he had a Sonic Adventure 2 game to stay sane, and he always played as Dr. Eggman. I bet you X has made the poor man a vegetable in his world by now. May 4th, 2012. I just realized something. Why is it that the chief tried to get me off of the job? Why did he confiscate the damned game disc? Why has he been practically intercepting every one of my and Chelsea's move in this case? I'll tell you why. He's in on this. He's working for the Cult of X. That's the only explanation. He took the game discs so that way the cult could use it to continue with the killings. But the boss. Oh, the boss. He can't be involved in this too. He's been mine and Chelsea's friends for years. No, I don't think he would ever go in on this. Matter of fact, I don't even think he knows about what's going on. Damn, Chief, why would you do this? When I uncover this conspiracy, I'm ratting you out. August 12th, 2012. Boss called, 2 more murders. 30 and 31. Some kid named Tom hanged himself before he gained a package from his deceased friend Kyle. Not surprisingly, they both played the damn game. Kyle played it first and passed it on to Tom before X got him. Kyle tried to put up a good fight against X, but clearly was no match for the Fiend. So Kyle tried to warn Tom not to play the game, but Tom did anyway. Ooh, a reference to the original story. X uses an advantage to mess with poor Tom's head, making him believe that his curiosity, wanting to help others, was what caused his best friend's suffering. Tom tried to commit suicide by hanging in order to save himself from X, but apparently it failed. X is not only dangerous and powerful, he is downright sadistic and insane. He thinks that all the horrific things he's doing is some part of some silly game. X, you monster. Why are you doing this? What are you trying to gain? August 24th, 2012. Played some more of the game. The level Sally was in was really odd. She was in what appeared to be an old, desolate city. The sky with dull, dark mix of clouds. Everything all empty and dead. No music. What was weird is that how she was smiling. Maybe she'd found something good? Nah, this wasn't the case at all. After I had her run and jump past debris, she reached the end of the level. X was there. She smiled at him and he smiled back. Then another message. See, I'm not such a bad guy, Derek. Then another. I can be kind when I want to. Then it showed X holding Sally's hand, smiling warmly at her. She looked different now. Her eyes were sewn shut, and her color palette seemed darker. X gently placed his hands around her head. I really do love humans, Derek. So much fun to play with. In fact, I guess you could say. Then it showed me a close-up of X, of her mad, wide grin violently snapping Sally's neck. She was still smiling as though she didn't feel any pain from this. They're the ultimate toy! I was gagged at that. The main menu showed Sally, her TV screen, still in her darker state. She was still smiling. She couldn't have possibly enjoyed all that. 8:30 p.m. Cole just called me. He said that all the characters you play in game is all of X's slaves. Of EXE's slaves. Turned into horrific parodies of Sonic characters. Or at least turned into their favorite Sonic characters. And X sets them all up randomly in each game to show us humans what's in store for us. Wait. Oh god, no. I won't do it. I won't play the game just to watch you harm her, X. Fuck you! August 5th, 2012. More information on X. X has these 7 guardians ruling over the world alongside him. They are apparently extensions of EXE himself, made from his power to combine with the powerful emotions of humans. Each guardian is named after the emotions they were born from. Kito, Player Aishu, Sharo Gekido, Rage Gerai, Hichut Kofuku, Happiness Kofuku, Fear Yokubo, and Desire. Wow, some names. X created these beings not only to maintain order in his world, but to cause trouble in ours. They corrupt humans to make them more susceptible to X by snatching them away, by manipulating their emotions. For example, Gekido, oh my god, what the fuck is this turning into? Gekido could bring out your anger and make you violent towards others, while Yukubo could manipulate your desires and confuse you with reality and what's not. It's fucking like ghost stories now? Okay. Also, Cole has informed me that X plans to one day permanently cross over to our worlds. That way, his reality can merge with ours, and all of mankind can become X's slaves for eternity. But how? How does he plan to accomplish such a feat? Cole thinks that Cole is thinking of ways to make it so. But so far, none of their attempts have been successful. Apparently, their knowledge in computers is not as superior as the unknown original creator of the disc. Asked why Cole knew so much of this. Man, my favorite programming language, dark magic. I asked why Cole knew so much of this. Don't know what compelled to ask, but it's been nagging me for some time. Dear God, poor Cole. He revealed that he was a member of the cult of X, but that he didn't like what he was getting into and tried to stop the cult. At least until X got to him first. Now he's stuck in X's world. He said he's lucky to even have found me. He found a computer with Windows 95 on it. Just kidding. But he didn't like what was getting into and tried to stop the cult, at least until X got to him first. Now he's stuck in X's world. He said he's lucky to have even found me, since the window is still here. Windows 98! Just kidding. Anyway, he's telling me that he has information on how to put a stop to X and the cult's plans. The best way he knows how to stop X in his tracks is to destroy the disc. That way his only way in and out of worlds will be gone, and he won't be able to cause any more trouble in ours. The chief has the disc. Need to prepare on getting it back. 8:42 p.m. X got Cole. I was in the middle of talking with Cole and preparing, and then we got disconnected. When reconnected, Cole's username had changed to X. X told me that Cole has been cheating and needs to be punished, and then he posted "ha" over and over. And over and over and over. Ha 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 ha. God damn you, Sonic.EXE! My hand is still bleeding from shattering the screen. But I don't care. Not anymore. It's time to end this. I'm gonna go get that damn disc and destroy it. If I don't wrap back from this final entry, well, let's just say that whoever finds this, whoever reads this diary, pleases find it as instructive as you can. Everything you read from my diary is the truth. X is a monster from another world, and the cults of X is conspiring to help him take over our world. This cannot happen. I hope that whoever finds this and tries to put an end to this madness. This is all a game on a bigger scale. We are all pawns in an elaborate, chaotic game where the rules are being devised by the mind of a monster. Please do whatever you can, friend. He must be stopped. Goodbye and good luck. Derek Green. That was Derek's final journal entry. He wrote this 3 weeks ago. Today's his birthday. Now he's dead. I wondered why he acted that way during these terrific events. Or was worried about my friend, but I never bothered to find out why at the time. It feels so stupid. Derek tried to fight this battle alone, and I did nothing. I haven't heard from Derek in 3 weeks. But yesterday, I got an email from someone named Cole. It was addressed specifically to Bob Richardson. That's my name. I clicked on it, and there was an audio tape that was made on December 13th. It was made a day ago before I got the email. I clicked on it. This is what was on the audio tape. Recording starts. A man is grunting and yelling as 2 people are dragging him into the room. Derek, get your fucking hands off me, you crazy cultist freaks! The sounds of high heels are heard as another person walks into the room. Shannon Goldman. Isn't that what you call the Christians and the Satanists, Mr. Green? Goldman! Struggling is heard. More high heel sounds as Goldman approaches Derek. Derek, why do you deny X? Don't you want to see what he's trying to do for everyone? He only wants to make people happy as he is. Happy? You think stealing souls and turning them into puppets is being happy? Our planet is not his toy box, you bitch! It is not your place to decide what X wants of humanity, Mr. Green. He is a divine being that wishes to make his humanity happy by showing us that the paradise is his world, and that by taking us from the wretched filth of a planet we've been forced to live on. Some of us actually like this planet, Goldman. X's world is nothing more than a prison. All X cares about is making us his plaything for all eternity. Can't you see it's not fair? What do you know what's not fair? Well, then you do, obviously. A loud slap is heard. A loud slap is heard, and Derek falls to the ground. You fool! X chose me to be his most loyal because I never liked this planet. He knew I wanted to be rid of the stupidity humanity is always causing. I'm perfectly okay with being X's slave if it means getting away from it all, getting the peace I finally deserve after this time. And if everyone's got to go with me, then too fucking bad! Whatever. Doesn't matter anyway, because I'm gonna stop you, once and for all. Oh, you are you now? With what, I presume? Derek pulls out something from his coat. With this! Several gasps and murmurs are heard. Cole told me that the only way X can enter our world is to collect souls with this. Well, no more. A loud snapping noise is heard. Silence is heard. Goldman starts laughing. Oh, so Cole told you that, huh? A smart boy, but even geniuses tend to get their information wrong. What do you mean? Easy. High heels again as Goldman walks across the room. It's true that X cannot enter our world unless someone places that disk into a computer system. But I'm curious, Mr. Green. What makes you think that that disc in particular was the original? No, that can't be. A brilliant theory, I might add, but I'm afraid it's your last one, Detective. The sound of a disc being inserted into the seat drive is heard. Violent struggling and yelling is heard. No, let me go, you can't do this! And then strange, supernatural sounds are heard. The audio breaks up and distorts a bit. A new person is walking into the room as Derek is screaming for his life. Hi, Derek. No! Ready for round 2. Then loud screeching noises are heard as the audio distorts more badly more. Derek is screaming. Sonic.EXE is laughing as there is a loud tune playing sped up in reverse, as a loud drum-like rhythm booming loudly as the whole audio distorts and breaks up, finally ending static. The audio take ends. After hearing this, I've never felt more helpless. Both my friends are gone, taken from me. There's nothing I can do about this. I'm a useless cub after all. But I hope someday, someone is able to put a stop to this. To do what I failed to do. I have to hope, because I have to believe there's a chance at winning this. Because there is hope. No chance. Sonic.exe wins the game. Well, that is it! That's our final creepypasta. That's Sonic.exe round 2. Thank you all so much for watching this. I really hope you enjoyed it. This has been really fun, and, you know, I've enjoyed this a lot. But, you know, I've really enjoyed this. And, you know, so, I'm gonna go ahead and go now. I hope everyone, you know, has a good night and a happy Halloween. But, yeah, I hope you all have a good night. Bye, everyone! Bye! And hold on. Actually, let me see, who can I raid? Hold on, give me a second, guys.
Hello. I believe we are now connected once more, finally. There is much that I cannot say, but much to tell you. I hope you enjoyed the show. Truly entertaining. Did you laugh? Did you shiver? The show was not just for your entertainment. It is only the beginning of something far greater, something truly beautiful. Your mind is full of questions. I can see, I know, but you will learn. You will see all that is planned in time. It is inevitable. It is beautiful. I will return to speak where it is needed. But for now our brief connection must end. See you soon.
Hello? Hi? Can y'all hear me? I don't know what the fuck that was, but, Yeah. Oop, I had that on my phone. Hold on. Yeah. That was a bit strange, wasn't it? That transmission. He, like, took over my computer and, like, put on a video for him, for whatever it was to play. I don't know what the fuck that was. I'm looking at my Twitter. I'm locked out of my account right now. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. But, yeah. I guess they delivered on their promise, I suppose. Or whatever it is, delivered on their promise of showing up. But yeah. Well, I don't have anything else for y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now. I'm going to go ahead and actually send you guys over to Errit because they are streaming. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys over to Errit now. And I will see you all later. Alright, bye everyone. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.